The ALGS is back here, and North America is star-studded per usual. We saw the debut of the super team yesterday, and they played pretty super, taking the win. Who will challenge them today as Group C has their debut in match day 2? We're about to find out. Let me tell you, it's going to be a heck of a ride. My name is Rain Day. I am your host of the ALGS, and I am joined by two amazing talent. We had some time in EMEA to go through those 6 games, and now we bring them back for another 6 in North America. First off, let me introduce Spider Tiff, though, back with us to join into the fray. North America, it has been the talk of the town.
It really has, and a couple of names in particular. You already mentioned one, those big bird falcon things that are running amok against our lobbies, and then also tripods. I've been really interested to see how they performed off day number 1 coming in second, but will those two teams be able to run it back on top of the leaderboard? Only time will tell.
And that is a great point. There were a lot of good performances yesterday. We don't want to overshadow them as well. Somebody's going to keep our eye on the intricacies and also just the fun moments, maybe a little automatopoeia again. Shazam, here's Dia.
Bow, here I am. Thank you very much, Rain Day. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we don't want to let this overshadow the fact that Group C is having their debut of Split 2 today, and those are certainly the teams that I have my eyes on. Falcons, of course, respect to you, Tiff. I'm going to be looking at them, but very excited to see what Group C brings us, especially with C9 entering the fray. I have been doing a lot of watch parties recently, and I have been amazed by C9. I keep putting, all of my tweets are like, oh my god, Naughty one clip someone again.
That's a big word, amazed. I think a lot of people are going to be looking for that, and it's their debut, so we may see some great things. In EMEA, we saw a debut for a lot of teams show up one way, some not so good. And in North America, we can expect more of the same. But yesterday, it was an interesting day. We saw Team Falcons jump out to a lead, and they won the group by 30 points. That was by far the main question we had. They answered it in full. But a team like Tripods, getting second, Tiff, you had mentioned, did so well to stay in the mix throughout it, and a team that's really built a lot of momentum over these last few weeks. But SSG and Oxygen Esports, and alongside NRG, all taking wins, Oxygen and NRG specifically, and SSG just playing a critical, clinical style of play, bringing in the young Zainu and, of course, Koiful alongside Phony, a youthful team, an experienced team, and now a very deadly team rounding at that top 3. And if you just take Vicky's example right there of how hyped this was, it was a great day overall. A lot to talk about, though, Tiff, and those stories will continue to expand on them as we head into North America Day 2.
We really will, and that's my reaction as well. When I start thinking about day number 1, all the teams from Group A, yeah, it was a standout performance. Like we said, Falcons, Tripods, your top 2, SSG and Oxygen Esports, and then you have NRG, which, by the way, guys, if I slip up and say NRG when I think of XSET and all those things, that's the former XSET roster. Of course, there are some changes there. We're bringing Reptar into the mix, competing alongside Knock and Fun, and Fun had some really impressive plays as a solo yesterday, so I really want to see them run it back today and find, yet again, even more success. Like you called it, they got a map win. They also found a top 3 with only a few eliminations, but despite it, they made the distance. But for LG, 14 points overall on day number 1. Not a bad showing. They're going to kind of take their lead as they were in Group B, and we're how they see what Group C can do to shake things up.
Sweet's not making it easy. Obviously, former NRG, LG qualifying right behind them as well. XSET also coming in. But again, big sentiment there was great to have that org back in Apex Legends as a contender. And of course, big names bring expectations that are just as big. These bottom 10 looking to obviously improve it. Maybe the biggest and most notable name that has gone through some serious changes is obviously TSM at that point, grabbing 11th place, coming on with new roster of Reps and Zapto, and of course Verholz. But Group C, like Group A and B, had several roster changes as they went into this new split, and as their debut, it's only right here that we highlight what went down.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we said, we want to keep track of what's going on with Group C, and these roster changes really do, I think, change the identity of these teams in some odd ways. For Vanity, perhaps it's a little bit more of a sidestep, dropping Orioles and picking up Stunny, who's actually played with Crook quite a bit in the past. Really big fan of what Stunny brings to the table. I think he's a pretty underrated controller player, so, fingers crossed. Let's see what comes up for Vanity. For Native Gaming, however, they've actually kept Rambo after last split, but swapped out Clean and Luxford with RKN re-entering the competitive scene, and the pickup, which I will say caught me out of left field, of McLovin. Now, I've seen McLovin compete for quite a long time. He was in the Challenger circuit for ages, ended up playing on EEC for a while, and has been in the Pro League, but to see him picked up to native alongside RKN and Rambo, I think left me with a lot of questions. They've looked good in scrims, now can they perform in Pro League?
Well, Rambo looking good in all aspects, whether it's the width of the shoulders, whether it's the hair down. He's obviously a fun player for people to root for, and he brings a lot of energy, whether at LAN or in groups. But speaking of groups today, it's A versus C. A will have that double header, so they'll have experience from yesterday to lean on. Group C, well, they'll have a little bit of the surprise factor as well. But there's one team that probably stands out, Tiff, when you look at it, that people will be focusing on to see if they can repeat the results of yesterday.
Yeah, I don't want to keep bringing this squad up or anything, but I'm really grateful that this team actually performed well yesterday, because everyone in chat throughout the EMEA broadcast was, where Falcons? Where Hal? What is happening? Well, okay, good. They showed up. They did absolutely amazing. And quite frankly, 20,000 damage across 6 games yesterday with a 6,648 damage differential. The most damage dealt in the entire lobby by far, the most eliminations, and not only that, they were able to take a win on World's Edge and Stormpoint, proving that they can be consistent no matter where they are. And speaking of Coastal Camp, that's where they started on Stormpoint, and that's pretty tough, and I'm really excited to see what they can do today. Yesterday, they had 20th and 21st draft pick. That's actually today. Lava Fisher and Launchpad are going to be where they will be starting things out. They did well on Stormpoint yesterday from Coastal Camp with a 39th pick, and then Sky West was second. Now, we start to think about why Sky West has been so prevalent for a lot of our teams, and in North America specifically, it is that tried and true POI that you see go first. Now, since they didn't get it today, you can see that they've locked in Lava Fissure for similar rotations, and they should be able to play relatively similar and stay consistent. Will those birds slay out today? I hope so. But Rainday, tell me about another team.
At DSG, I mean, they've got to be somebody that you speak about. It's been an interesting story. Obviously, Falcons have dominated the North American news, but landing Thermal Station in NorthPat, really comfortable for them on World's Edge. And DSG have built a roster that has synergy together. And I think the biggest thing that people are excited about, not just It's Timmy and Enemy and Designful as players, but the fact that they're sticking together. Designful had that opportunity to trial with TSM, and whether it was didn't get the right fit or whether he felt that what he had with this guys was too good to pass up on, you've got to respect the decision for them to build on what has already been a very successful roster. Top 10s in both of the lands that they've attended. Enemy, you saw his mom and his little sister there in the crowd in Los Angeles. This is a team that loves that disguised family. Bronzy coaching them, and he's been a long-time Apex Legends player and then coach. Feels like there's all good things heading for DSG, but a team that, you know, we may need to see some more from today, Dia, is, of course, Liquid Alienware.
Yeah, I mean, Liquid Alienware, they may not have had the greatest run when it came to the Split 1 playoffs, but I will say that is not tempering my expectations for them in Split 2. I actually got a chance to talk to them a little bit after Split 1 playoffs about how they felt it went, and this team that is and was and is known for taking these 3v3 fights and for dominating them really fell short quite a bit when it got to LAN. A lot of that came down to some increased pressure, perhaps feeling like, and I think it was Pistillo that said this, that the org signing, while an amazing thing, had put pressure on them that they really hadn't experienced before as an unsigned team. And so as they continue to iterate on that and really move forward in Split 2, I do expect that a lot of those nerves will come off, that this will become more of a regular thing, and that we can see Team Liquid get back into the legacy form that they had.
Well, they certainly will have the buff if they can make it back to LAN, with Liquid Alienware sponsoring all the gaming setups as well as the laptops on our desk. It's easy to think about them, but we'll have to see where the gameplay takes us. And if you're curious as to where they'll be landing or why we're even talking about that in this big a way, well, Split 2 has introduced the POI draft. It's changed the way we start and navigate Apex Legends at a competitive level. And for those who aren't caught up yet, here's a quick video to get you up to speed.
Prior to the Pro League regular season, each team receives a random assortment of draft picks for match days 1 through 9. The assortment is perfectly equal. meaning if a team receives the first draft pick, they'll also receive the 40th draft pick on that match day. This draft style is called a snake draft, and the order of draft picks changes with each match day, which means that teams may not always get their preferred POI. On draft day, each team will make 2 draft picks, 1 Storm Point drop spot and 1 World's Edge drop spot. Strategizing is crucial, as drop spots on both maps are up for grabs at the same time. There will always be more drop spots than teams, which means that even if you're the last pick, you'll have multiple options to choose from. Once a POI is chosen, it's off limits to all other teams for that match series. On match day, each team is dropped from an individual dropship above their drop spot. It is a whole new ALGS.
It'll be interesting to see how North America, in our second time to see this play out in the start of our season, end up engaging with this POI draft. We've seen somebody get top picks and not perform. We've seen people have lower picks like CCE, who had their 38th pick on World's Edge. By the end of those 3 games, they were in a 3rd place position, having over 32 points. So it can go either way. We'll continue to pick that up. And if you want to watch those storylines as they unfold, well, we've got a great place for you to go. It's FACEIT.com/watch. This is your way to watch the ALGS in the style that you prefer. Of course, the main broadcast will have you covered, whether it's telestrators and lovely listen-ins from our production team and our main man, Dia, or if it'll just be random commentary, allowing you to get the big picture of the storylines and the arcs that we're following across splits and for our international play. But if you like to hear the team comms all the time, you like to see every rotation, you like to get into the action and be there in the struggle to success and ending up as that champion, well, FACEIT.com/watch has you covered. Go ahead and check it out as we get into today's action. Speaking of today's action, we're about to get going, but as we head into it, let's leave this moment as an opportunity for us as casters, commentators, to not do our talent picks, but more so a prediction or expectation of the day. I'll start with you, Tiff, and kind of get into the conversation around what are the expectations? Do you think that this is going to be another storyline based around the Falcons again, or do you look at a couple of other teams as, whether they perform and get first or not, as the most important results that you'll be tracking?
Look, if you're going to spend a lot of time and other efforts to put together a super team, I really hope that they are able to remain consistent. Now, granted, I had my worries initially when I saw that Hal was going to be moving towards that squad, and I'll go ahead and say that because, you know, Hal, very vocal, Zero, very vocal. Sometimes you wonder what that's going to look like. And honestly, Zero, IGLing that squad, it's been impressive. Obviously, they succeeded yesterday. I'd love to see them come to terms and throw down today. And another squad like Dia, I'm very excited to see what Cloud9 brings to the table.
Well, Dia, I want to get your thoughts as well, but I don't want to delay the action that people have tuned in for here on twitch.tv/PlayApex and across YouTube and all our socials. So let's get into it. Game number 1 is about to begin. So Tiff, Dia, take it away.
Let's do it. Dia, I know I already talked about my picks kind of. I mentioned that I want to see Cloud9 do really well. Disguise Team Liquid also making their first showing alongside FURIA. But is there someone else aside from Cloud9 that you either want to see step up from Group A or maybe create some expectations from Group C?
Boy, Tiff, I am so glad you asked because, well, we are going to be starting on World's Edge, and this will give teams the opportunity to play things out on a little bit more of a solved map. There are 2 teams that are solving things even faster, or I should say in more creative ways. I'm really enjoying 2 teams out of the PLQ. Both of them played yesterday. Weave has been playing and calming fantastically. I am a really big fan of their game plan so far. Incredible fighting team, and I would never dream of missing the opportunity to highlight that CCE and Shrevstacks have qualified up to the Pro League, and we now have a certified Rampart team in Pro League.
I knew that was going to make you super happy as we run through our World's Edge draft picks. You mentioned Weave. Well, they actually got first draft pick and were able to lock in Sky West. And you also bring up Trev Stacks, which I'm very familiar with thanks to Nicewig. Does a lot of watch parties, and he has been watching Trev Stacks POA since the Challenger Circuit days, following through him into ALGS. So it's been really interesting to see kind of what they're going to bring to the table, considering a top 10 finish yesterday, 7th place. Maybe we continue on that momentum or best it a little bit. But from our squads here, DSG grabs Thermal Station. in 18th. So that's really solid for them to lock in a POI that they're familiar with. But where Falcons kind of go through, right? They get 21st and 22nd pick in the draft day. They wrap in Lava Fissure first, and then they grab their Storm Point 1 second. I guess it really doesn't matter when you're 21st and 22nd which one you pick first, but Lava Fissure was that first choice.
Now, it is important, since we are starting to jump around POIs, right? We're seeing some teams that played one yesterday that didn't get it today. I want to give a shout out and a recommendation based on our past couple of points. We got a couple members of the community that really do thrive when it comes to picking up stats, and I want to shout out Burke the Apex Nerd, or Burke the Nerd. You can find them both on Twitter and on YouTube. I've been seeing them post a lot of content recently about the POI draft. As I said, very active member of the community, and if you end up liking CCE, they've actually got an interview with Trev Stacks up that I had a blast listening to. So to dive a little bit deeper on teams that you may not know, you can check out some of our community content that we've got lying around the ALGS.
We are so blessed with a community that is so passionate about Apex to provide so many resources for the communities to learn and just study up on the squads that we have. But all of those POI draft picks are now outlaid on your screen, the beautiful World's Edge. You can just see right there, E8. I would be worried about Survey Camp, and I mentioned this in EMEA, if someone had chosen to land Epicenter. So E8 will then be able to loot up all of the surrounding areas with Stallions that nearby Clima East. And I'm going to go ahead and reiterate this because some people were asking yesterday what that POI draft looked like. Why is it Clima East? Well, that's because some POIs are large enough that they can be split. And if you choose to contest, you can just lock in Clima West. You'll see the same thing with Barometer, Lava Siphon here on World's Edge, but a lot of teams have actually not elected to do that here, at least for EMEA and North America thus far.
I mean, I think it's a smart decision. We actually saw some small contests going on. I think it was Team 310 and Red Rams when we were in APAC North. But like over at Climatizer, I don't know, it's really just not... It's not the greatest option when you have a POI that you can get to yourself. Why would you 50-50 one, especially with the draft limiting you in this way without being able to land on somebody and instantly take a fight? You've got to land on separate sides of the POI. You have to take a fair fight, and unfortunately, fairness sometimes means that it takes longer. You don't want to do that.
Well, you know what I do want to do? I want to drop right into match number 1 of World's Edge. Kicking things off, you can see Falcons separating from that dropship. They'll go their separate ways, start their loot pass, and it's quite interesting to see how they approach it. And it's one of my favorite ways because we talked about love from the community. Well, the Green Bean put out the max flight path from any given POI that hovers above that. So for Lava Fissure, when they separate out, make sure that they loot their respective areas and granting themselves even a survey beacon here to boost.
It'll be a good start for them with an Evo Harvester pretty nearby. You could see Falcons rotate down to the south to grab it, although I really wouldn't mind a northern rotate this time around either. They will have some advanced information on the ring as that pops up right around now and give them a good chance to plan out their rotate. Now, Falcons do have the opportunity to go both ways, which I really like.
I do too. They also have the survey beacon, they have a ring console, and they have an Evo cache. So by no means do they have any issue getting that Evo leveled up for them. But it's so uncharacteristic, let me just tell you, when we come in and we don't have contests anymore. But I'd love to get a lay of the land. They found out ring information. We're hopping on the evac already. So let's roll and see where we're headed towards.
Yeah, I mean, this will give us a really good idea of where Falcons want to end up. The fact that we've got a ring pulling this far into Overlook is, of course, going to give a team like Cloud9 good priority, but I want to highlight Stallions' position as well. We actually saw this in EMEA, but being able to move from where Stallions are all the way into the back of Overlook can be really beneficial, but it is problematic that E8 are cutting them off right now, putting Stallions in a very tough position where they no longer have priority on this rotate and instead have to fight through E8. Switching to the other side of the map, Falcons are prioritizing Landslide, giving them opportunity to hit both of these scans before likely proceeding through the tunnel with the information that they will then have.
They're going to be absolutely kitted with all the information that they get. That Evo cache before they even make it towards the end will likely be purple. But Cloud9, with their POI draft pick sitting at 4th place, they grabbed Overlook. And you can see right there, they get that ring console information. They grab the scan and move to play on the outskirts of Overlook, which is very much on brand with where that zone pulled earlier in EMEA and is likely to be similar.
Certainly imagine it. Taking a look at the top of the screen, we've got some of those legend stats for you, for the curious ones at home. We've got a lot of Fuse in the lobby today, and with Tripods whipping out one of the only Caustics, now having high ground as well, maybe they'll be able to try something cheeky. Good angle on Vanity just below them, and the start to the fight takes out Crook. Not the beginning that Vanity were looking for.
No, definitely not. And when you start getting into Geyser, things can be really weary. You were talking about a lot of the rotations, specifically in that mid-map, but when we saw the drop spots, everyone was in the south. It was very heavy. Domes, stacks, all of these POIs taken. So you know that this is going to be a point of contest with NRG flying on over, making their way to tunnel. Knock takes some damage, of course, on that rotation, knowing that Tripods are nearby and the remnants of Vanity. But for now, all is well. Fun will have that Dark Veil and 2 piercing spikes available. See how we're going to use that. Here come Tripods.
I mean, it makes playing something like the tunnel really nice for NRG. I think the worry has to be that eventually you will leave this tunnel, and that's always the danger. No matter how good your spot is in this area between Geyser and Overlook, having to relocate can be extremely punishing, with a lot of teams watching the exit from the tunnel, because, I mean, it's incredibly easy to take advantage of a team that has to go through one spot.
Oh, for Elevate, though, Slayer down here. They did get a knock on Jalo in, and, well, the swing comes in. That purple knockdown shield will provide cover, but the shell, it's not enough. Stallions have fallen. Oblivion as well. But we did just get to see a rotate there from Team Falcons. They did everything that you mentioned. They hit the survey beacon and frag, evac'd out, and chose to fight north, where Elevate currently are looking to reset.
Yeah, but by choosing to move north, Falcons make sure that they have high ground on a rotation, which is mostly to prioritize their, what I'd call, like, advantage in a fight. Because they're always going to have high ground, teams should be disincentivized to fight them. And like you say, calling out E8, we really got to see how punishing it can be when you do move a little bit late, and a squad like Elevate is able to move ahead of you. Huge punish as well from Most Hated. That's Jay down, and we could see Vanity out. They're down to just a singular player.
Very tough start here for Vanity. We'll keep back in touch with them. It seems like they were trying to make a res there. They get caught out. Now Most Hated will keep on moving through. They're not just down to one. Crook still up in it alongside Stunny. You can see them moving over towards Lava Siphon. And Most Hated definitely scouting things out over here at Grandma's. A Wope over there just pops up to the roof. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to focus on that rotation. Is that extra elimination worth it, or should you just let it come? But more action to be had. Falcons on that rotate, run into FURIA.
They haven't got a lot of safe spaces to play. Papa the Blood ult is mostly so they can battle for their next spot. Jen Burton and Zero already very low. Hal has to cover the cross and manages to buy just enough time for Zero to pop a bat. This is by no means safe, however, neither is Zach. Hal doing disgusting things.
Let's see what they do with Jen Burton on one of the only Watsons in our lobby. You can immediately retreat towards the inside of any building, fence it up, and you look at the perk selection. We talk about the first level up for that is you can grab arc stars if someone throws an incoming nade into your arc star and it intercepts it, or any interception will grant that arc star onto the ground. And also, we're on purple, so we grab that next perk, what allows you to have your Jenny 250 HP as opposed to 150. So plenty of free shields there towards the end game, specifically if you're quick rotating, which is exactly what they've done here.
Taking a look at the next ring, E8 continue with their great position. Like you said, very similar to what we had over in EMEA, albeit pulling a little further into Overlook proper. This could actually foreshadow an even further south pull that takes us to the south of Overlook, because we don't see a lot of endings over by where E8 are, despite the fact that these zones' edges are very close together.
You're telling me Falcons can move from that building straight into Overlook deep, no one's there to chow them, and they're going to get ring console?
I'm telling you it's possible. I'm not a doubter of that particular outcome. I think what I am doubting right now is Weave's exit from Epicenter. They've got both Yup and SSG gatekeeping this rotate. And as much as I am a fan of Weave, it does look difficult for them to find their way into safety, much in the same way as most Hated and Vanity are likely only going to leave with one alive.
And this is tough, right? We've got less than a minute left before that ring starts encroaching on the territory. Incoming Bloodhound scan, and well, when you just pop Beast to the hunt back, Dynasty smokes forward, looks for some angles here, but this is where your Bloodhound player will excel. Got to take down those piercing spikes first, but if I'm Vanity, I'm disengaging. We've already invested the Dark Veil to cut off that line of sight, doubling down into Lava Siphon itself.
I do like that they're playing very conservatively, like instant Dark Veil, not waiting for a knock to come through, not waiting so that you're like shot and have to use it reactively, but instead say, okay, well, we know that there's a Bloodhound ult on the other side. We can really quickly cancel out any push. I think it's a smart move for Vanity. I don't think it's a move that necessarily keeps them alive for that much longer. Let's take a look at this rotate, though, from Disguised. Using a Wraith Portal, one of the few Wraiths that we have in ALGS as a whole will let them cross through almost the entirety of Epicenter untouched.
It's wild. You've got your Skirmisher, you have your Recon Legend, and then you have Fuse, the Assault. Right now, something to be said about the changes that came into Season 21 with Fuse in particular. Now, Design, yes, on that initial scouting from the portal, will just kind of rotate back through. I love that Timmy's already dropping the shield core to allow for Design, but decides, okay, well, that looked like a little bit of a delay on deciding what they wanted to do with who that gets that, but we'll touch back with that later because Tripods have finally come on out and are starting to chow forward the building. Deeds on Caustic. Where they want to be, Dia? It's inside a building.
Unfortunately, with Caustic, it doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to bypass the way that Catalyst reinforces things. Sort of how Caustic can walk through other Caustics, Catalyst can walk through other Catalysts, having one or the other, not doing you a lot of favors. Tripods eat the Thermite. Somehow Deeds is still alive. I've never seen health bars this low in my Apex Legends casting career, and yet Tripods are going to somehow escape with all three members up. Did not go down once.
The Thermite that was just burning around him, the actual real life meme. We do lose out on Designful, and with that scuffle early on, Timmy's banner will be collected. Let's hope and see if we can get him back in, but more to the point, enemy on Fuse, right? You get access to the ring console with that first initial perk upgrade. You saw that enemy had that locked in, but now here sitting in Fragment East, things are not going to be easy, but we're managing those cooldowns. Design looking to get the Wraith Portal back online. There it is.
I believe they've got a team behind them. Designful's looking. Maybe the squad behind has rotated out already, and another Wraith Portal comes through to try and give Disguised the opportunity to get Timmy back into the game. This lets them hold the building and get a res at the same time. Hopefully the portal will last for long enough that Timmy can rejoin the rest of the squad, but will Disguised actually outlast a push that I'm sure is coming?
There it is, Timmy, feet on the ground, and here comes Oxygen, aided, Bane, Frex. We'll see if it does last. I think he's able to get through it. Now Design and enemy are going to have to fend off Oxygen for the time being. Timmy gets deleted on his journey back, thanks to Aiden watching that portal.
Smart move from Aiden, but unfortunate for Disguised. Enemy going to jump up onto the high ground. I think he misses one jumping below him, and unfortunately is just out-angled. Oxygen pick up another kill, pick up the last one. Disguised go down, and it's just in time for Oxygen to attempt a reset. This zone close not going to be kind to them. Weave passing them by, and now taking the forward rotate away from Oxygen.
That's going to be tough if you're Oxygen to find a path out of there. We'll have to check in to see what they're doing, because FURIA out here holding, in a sense, right? Knowing that potentially there is a squad underneath them. We'll have to check in to see who that is in particular. I believe it may be Cloud9, who landed an overlook and rotated out early. But for this 4x10 gold longbow here, if you've got so many Bangalores in the lobby and you want to be able to see through things, this is so good for scouting and to keep that damage mid-range.
also get to smoke at your own feet and keep the advantage, which I think is very, very cool. Not only using it to see through smokes that other people are using defensively, but sort of using it offensively yourself, which is a really unique way to leverage the power of the digital threat on Sniper.
Can we just talk about that angle that our observers just hit to tell us the Cloud9? Because as we jump on over Weave, that grabs the forward rotate against Oxygen. Everything's collapsing, and they actually make it out. And I say that, Shinny, down to ring. Riley, can we get in? Just mere moments away. Not enough. The fight that cost you. Oxygen and Weave both fall.
And unfortunately for Weave, they go down without any placement points having been collected. So all of that hard work gets them a few KP, but it is not a start they'd look for Sky West, one of the most prioritized POIs in the game. Instead, the late rotate literally does kill them in the end.
Liquid Alien Wear and Tripods have fallen also. A lot chalked up to the no-name area where multiple teams are collapsing upon Tempr, being the most recent one, cloaked last standing. We'll see if he can hit a reset here, but not where Vanity has made a play. Flat and CCE are also here, and so many teams target them. Tempr has fallen.
And Vanity make a huge comeback for this as well. They've rezzed 2 members now in Siphon. Full run from an engagement, only to take a team fight win at long last in No Name. Now, the journey isn't done. It's far from that for Vanity. Everybody having to move up towards the north, where teams like SSG, E8, and Falcons await them.
You know what awaits me? All of the amped covers, a Trev stacks, and they are just bunkered down. They're gonna have to move, of course. But for the time being, that is a force to be reckoned with. And if they can make that play alongside Loba to constantly keep that loot moving, everywhere else is just a big Spider-Man meme of pointing across at each other. For Flat, though, 2 seconds on the clock. We need to end this quickly and hit the road.
I really wonder whether either of these teams will make it out alive. Flat starting to get shot in the back as they approach a cleanup with Vanity. Does not look likely. Flat pick up the first kill. Zone 4 really ticking. This can and will take you down. Fortunately, Flat do find one more knock, but go down before they can collect any additional KP for it. Native rotating ahead of them, having watched the carnage, are going to be mirrored by Yup just further off to the north.
But honestly, at the end of the day, CCE is able to bypass the entirety of that mess and just rotate in the moment that fight broke up. Now they're ahead of Native Gaming, and NRG was able to hold towards the right side of the zone and walk up. Now, granted, not a lot of cover here. We do have fun. We could potentially see a Dark Veil come into play. 2 smokes on deck and a Rolling Thunder. But for them, I think it's nice to just bide their time and try to stay out of angles from FURIA over here.
I think there's a really nice angle for the Bangalore ult there as well. Nocturnal's use of this is fantastic. You force a team off of the high ground, or at least to stop looking at you for the duration. FURIA takes some chunks off of that ultimate, and now if they re-peak NRG, they'll find that Nocturnal has already moved to join the rest of the team. Perhaps not in ring, but just that little bit closer. E8 scrambling for control of the north side of zone, have hung on to their position that they fought and earned earlier in the game, but now have to move up to this cart, this occupied cart, and take a clean 3v3 before anyone else looks at it.
Ooh, we're approaching, looking for angles. They're gonna leave and reassess here constantly with that Beast of the Hunt expiring there, the scans to give them the information, but it makes sense where the Falcons have pushed themselves into, right? You're a Watson, you can play inside those. Now, granted, if you don't have that Jenny, it makes for an atrocious time to hold. And speaking of tough places to hold, NRG actually moves up to the top of tower. We're throwing down the piercing spike should someone try and make a play for that. But when you've got longbows in the hands of FURIA and constantly looking to find an angle, you have to make sure that you don't even show the slightest peek up.
That's the 4x10 Digi too, so even with the smokes, they can see you. FURIA fortunately have a couple other things to check off the list, making sure the teams don't rotate next to them, but they do not expect retaliation from NRG, who are looking for a way to punish this team that has been a thorn in their side.
FURIA, this is going to be a heck of a rotation that they need to make, and without a catalyst, even tougher. We do find some cover for the time being, but it's not going to be enough. Incoming arc stars are going to make things more difficult. And we still aren't even on purple. Yes, you get that shield core swap, so you'll have a fake purple for the time being. Yup, eliminated. That's our last smoke. And we're in for now. Over to Team Falcons, running into some trouble here. Jen Burton fully eliminated, but they're able to find the full and the elimination onto Elevate Gaming.
That is a classic Falcons maneuver. E8 and Falcons could have shared space. E8 could have played the back of this truck, but Falcons never share space. Zero simply doesn't let that happen as an IGL. And now NRG are looking at the fight. Falcons still need a res. NRG do not want to let it happen.
Oh, NRG. You can see Reptar, Nocturnal pushing, putting pressure onto that duo. And as soon as you take over their truck, Fun from the back, anchoring on high ground with the triple take, which can be so damaging. We're just waiting for that opening moment. When you push the Falcons out, Team Falcons eliminated at the hands of SSG.
Zainu has gone down for it, but it looks good for SSG. Before we get to the end game, let's pop into a quick listen-in with SSG.
I'm bangulting too. We're gonna slide to this. We're gonna slide to Heady. They're gonna be playing behind this rock. They're gonna get shot by everybody.
Can we just shoot it? Yeah. Wait, yeah, good idea. Just shoot it. Nice.
Good comms. They're gonna have to climb up then.
Look left. No. They're gonna take it up.
I'm bangulting this.
Taking it.
Really good fuse ult.
Shoot one. One knock.
And you can see right there, Spacestation Gaming pushing straight onto C9, did not want to allow them to get up that evac tower. Elsewhere, Furia has fallen into the final 3.
C9 hedged their bets, one sticking around on the low ground, eking it out for placement points. Will another fight happen, saving C9 and pushing them up to second place? It does look like they've collected one. NRG, C9, SSG, and C9 has no way of playing out the end game. It's just chaotic on the low ground. Can he outlast one of the two teams on height? NRG gets sent on. SSG take out one. Skynade from Fun should be defensive. Might take out a member of SSG, but I don't hear it connect. I don't see the cracks come through. NRG still alive. C9 on the low ground. Their timer is expiring. Back into the fight comes Nocturnal. Gold res gives NRG the chance to use this head peek over the hill.
And we are just biding our time, healing to maximum if we can. A blood scan incoming. We'll give that information over to SSG. We're going to have to take an angle and into the final 2. Koi finds Reptar. Some trades come in, and at the end of the day, SSG take match number 1 in dynamic fashion.
Great play from SSG at the end. They put the pedal to the metal, recognizing, hey, we have data that NRG don't. We just saw C9 try and take height, and we know they're not coming back. Let's make use of this time while we can and take as much space as possible. It's what ultimately wins in the game, what gets them height, despite how well NRG fought them for it.
It was really interesting. I'm so glad that we got to dive into that listen-in just before that circle started to collapse, because you hear their collective thinking. As soon as the evac tower gets popped from Cloud9, like you mentioned, they just start shooting it out and kind of waiting to see what can we do to put the pressure and eliminate that threat from our right, so we can focus our real attentions over onto NRG, which, by the way, NRG played fantastic throughout that rotation to get northbound over by Overlook to bypass and get through Team Falcons, shove them into SSG, and let them take the brunt of that. Now, granted, you're going to give up a few KP in that regards, but at the end of the day, NRG still walked away with a slew of eliminations.
And they managed to get second place out of this. Imagine how different this game would have played out if they had instead played scared up on the sniper tower, let Falcons get a reset off on low ground, have all 3 members in the game, and now suddenly you've got a full brawl that SSG can come in third party after they dissuade C9, which is a very, very different endgame.
It really is, and they might not have finished in second, but who knows? I love the what if scenarios when you start talking. This is like, what would have happened if they would have did it? But let's go ahead and pull up the match results. Like we said, a lot of eliminations went the way of Spacestation Gaming. 11, a 23-point game to kick things off. NRG, you mentioned it, right? They were able to capitalize on the weakness that Team Falcons had despite that earlier fight from sharing that space with Elevate Gaming and that neighboring truck. They walk away with 6, so 15 points. Overall, a pretty solid start.
Yeah, I don't think that this is a bad place for any of these teams who had started off the game and really made their way with a solid game plan, right? SSG essentially took a late rotate through Climatizer, not something that would be crazy for them to do even when they were landing Climatizer. NRG managed to make really good use of their rotation through Overlook, which really impressed me because they were looking pretty down bad for a little while. Falcons do much the same. E8's early rotate, however, really impacted this game, cutting off Stallions, and I'm sure that when we look at the bottom half of the leaderboard, Stallions seeing themselves found down there is going to be a big motivator for them coming into game 2, because this should have been one where Stallions were placing top 3, and with the experience on that roster, I think they know that.
Well, quick pointer before we do jump on over to that second half of the match 1 results. Flat 9 eliminations, 2 placement points, a total of 11 points to go out in 10th place. Imagine if they would have been able to grab some placement points alongside that. That's 3 full team wipes when you're thinking of that in terms of eliminations. Vanity find themselves with 8 as well. That's pretty wild.
And it's even wilder, even more wild, even wilder. Not sure which one. Gonna commit now. When we consider that Vanity did lose 2 members in the early game, they didn't realistically get to play Apex Legends until Zone 3 when they third party a fight and turn that into a few more kills over the next couple of minutes. But when they just didn't have a game to play, and that's what makes their 8 kills so much more impressive.
It really does, and we're going to go ahead and pull up the stats from our top 3 finishers there. Now, Cloud9 played from the underneath, and honestly, that's why, in my opinion, their damage really isn't in comparison with the other top 2 teams. It's because they were holding out, being away from those squads and anchoring down from the low ground, and when they tried to make that play in towards the end game, it got stifled by SSG, who, by the way, a nice 4k damage, 11 eliminations across the 3 of them, and it's shared between Zainu, Koifel, Phony. Quite impressive, but I mean, if you think about it, we're just getting started. That was our first World's Edge map of the day. Anything can happen. We got 5 more games to go, 2 more on World's Edge. We're gonna cut to a quick break, and when we come back, more Apex Legends action.
Alienware is the official PC and monitor partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. Hopefully you kept the hype going with that music in our break, but we are back quickly after a couple of minutes to get into the action for another game here. Dia on the mic alongside myself, Rain Day, as North America continues to go on. Whether you're watching at home, well, I guess everyone's watching at home at this point. I mean, I'm watching at my house. Some people might be at a studio, but most of you watching from home, hopefully you're enjoying watching this. Plenty of other esports as well happening on Sunday. It's kind of one of those days, Dia, where, you know, the best of esports really showcase themselves. ALGS obviously a part of it and a core fixture for for a lot of our fans tuning in. I want to first give my thoughts, though, before I toss it back to you to get us into what you expect going into the second game. On game one, the biggest takeaway I had was really SSG and the fact that Phony, as a leader and somebody experienced, it's obviously tough with Frex being kind of the SSG member from the beginning that is now left for Koifel to jump in. But I feel like this Koifel, Zainu, Phony squad really has some promise. How do you feel about how they've performed and just their potential heading into the split?
I'll be honest with you, Randy. I don't feel that differently about SSG than I did last split, but I don't take that as a dig. I thought they were a really good team last split, and I also think that they're a really good team this split. If anything, the changes between the SSG rosters have been kind of lateral, and what really this hinges on is Phony's IGLing, because Phony is an incredible IGL. He's been around the scene for a very long time, but he's also kind of a switch on, switch off IGL. Sometimes he's got a really good read of the meta, and then he's like, it's all Phony all the time. And sometimes he just can't quite find the actual solution. This zone, for example, looked really good for them. It's a climatizer zone. I'd expect it to, especially with their experience. I do wonder, can Phony keep that up?
It is a great point, and while maybe you look at Frex and Koifel as lateral, I think in terms of synergy is where I'm seeing the biggest jump up for SSG, because I think Frex and Phony fill familiar-ish role. It's not a full overlap, but it's more of an overlap than Koifel and Phony, and I feel like this allows Phony to IGL, to lead, to gameplay, and then also come back in with those fights to hit some crucial shots. But it then opens up Koifel, who we've seen perform at LAN, and we just saw him perform at LAN as a sub in LA phenomenally well, making a big difference. And then obviously Zainu, who's got LAN experience himself, to really just, I feel, be free on those roles and frag out. And we've seen that pay dividends. It's just the feeling that I've gotten. Obviously, the results have been strong over yesterday and starting out today, but of course, we will see as we get into it.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, just to really encapsulate it one more time, I'm hearing a similar thread to what we heard from Luke this morning about Game and Gladiators, that they sort of had two anchor players that were doing the same thing, and they needed to diversify that. This roster move for SSG does that for you.
I think so. I think it puts Phony into a more comfortable clear-cut role, and I think Frex was the one who didn't have the as clear-cut role for me on SSG. You can't deny Frex's experience as a player. He's been a part of Apex Legends for so long, but I think maybe the synergy with how Phony likes to IGL, and then obviously the two young gunners who you put those three in a team fight, they're pretty scary. I don't know if anyone absolutely beats them, right? Because they've got so much talent there and young, and so they can build off of this. I think it's a nice pairing. I like it.
I mean, Koifel's first LAN ever, he was top fragging for, I think it was Sentinels at the time.
Yeah.
And then Zainu is such a good player that in Zero's interview yesterday after Falcons win, he was talking about how what he wants from this Hal move is a player like Zainu. That's a pretty rave review from one of the top IGLs in the world.
It's incredible stuff, and I think that's just great to see different teams having moments in the sun, in the spotlight, and that's what the first start of a split is. It's going to give us a focus on other teams. CCE right now, you've been a big fan of them, so have I. Trev Stacks, our resident Rampart main here. Yesterday it was referred to as a gimmick. You were not able to respond on that broadcast when that was mentioned. I kind of pushed back a little bit, but I want to know your thoughts. How do you feel about the Rampart in general and CCE heading into their second match of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I think Rampart is a good pick. Is Rampart the best pick in ALGS right now? Probably not, because I think a lot of Legends tend to overshadow her when it comes to the utility they provide outside of Rampart's specific niche, which is just, we have a good spot, let's make it all that much better. But I think that calling it a gimmick would be to discredit what CCE have gone through in the Challenger circuit. And it comes back to what we were saying this morning on EMEA, that Apex Legends really does allow you to experiment with what you're comfortable with and then find that thing that makes your team unique and succeed with it. I think that this is that for CCE. This is a team that also has stuck together for a really long time, that has found something unique for them. And just because nobody else is doing it, I don't think makes it a bad thing.
You're absolutely right. And, you know, just one step away from high-level play, maybe a few big steps away, however, is ranked, where you see utility of winning games very, very possible. But because of, you know, the kind of structure that we've seen the ALGS have and Pro Play have and the consistency, we don't get as much flexibility. We don't see as much variety. But one of the pieces, maybe the transition into that is, A, maybe that's just because we haven't seen it and not that it can't work. And B, a little bit of spicy Watson pick from Jin Burton there, who we hover over and now transition back over to C9, a team you're excited about in Stallions. But the Watson certainly coming back into the fray after Reject Vanity take their win from Impact North, representing the beloved fence maker herself.
Oh yeah, I mean, the ability to control space on Watson, absolutely critical. And I can only respect Falcons for seeing how that worked for Reject at LAN and doing it themselves. Also into Fuse, super useful. I'm sure it would be nice to be running a Watson up against what Stallions are doing right now, but with C9 bunkered into the building, perhaps they can put up a good defense even without it.
Stallions, a team of veterans. Alberlelli, Retzi, pair with Jilloin on the Fuse. And the Fuse we have seen with the change to be able to hit ring consoles now, much more prevalent in our ALGS, at least these last 2 match days. It's always been an incredible character in terms of pressure. You have 2 knuckle clusters that serve as essentially grenades that are on cooldown. So you can continue to apply it in Stallions. However, that push, it wasn't the timing, it wasn't the place, and they do not get any of the results there. They'll go down as our first team to drop out in our lobby.
Our first team to make a pretty critical error, Rainday, like moving up on that building with teams that are clearly going to be coming from the north. Stallions, I think, perhaps looking a bit uncomfortable after their first game where they were caught off guard there, wanted to try and be proactive this game, but the Pro League mentality has to be one where you're making stable decisions, and C9 certainly did that. Native came in, got some good kills. We'll see how they can stabilize, as a lot of other teams are going to have to keep their heads moving into this next round. NRG, in fact, starting to move their way up, prioritizing the choke point. You don't want to go through tunnel unless you have to, or unless you think you want to hit the vault. I'd like to see NRG play for Grandma's house, see what they can grab, but they get shot in the side, and after losing Nocturnal, Rainday, they don't have much choice.
I mean, they came at that choke the exact time Flat was coming from the other side. You see it right there, and that is how Nocturnal goes down. They did not expect it. Oh, it was just timing that was the problem. And Nano and Flat end up going ahead and stealing one off of NRG. That was not what NRG was hoping for, but again, that's the danger of rotating just a second too late, Dia.
I do wonder how far Flat can chase this. There's really not a lot of space in Skyhook for NRG to play, though they may be able to find some small safety. Disguised running up behind this as well. Could have taken advantage if the timing had just lined up as serendipitously as it did for Flat. They've still got a little ways left to make their way into zone. But Rainday, I want to take this moment and talk about the teams that actually are sat in zone. So let's bring up the map so we can talk a little bit about this, because notably CCE, dead center of ring right now, have one of the more common zone pulls. I'm going to circle it right now. Zone pulls normally going to be around here. Now there's still chance for that to deviate, but when we're looking at CCE's position relative to other teams, the fact that they're on Sniper Tower and with a rampart, which means that it's not easy to push them off, means that they deny this area from teams. Oh, we're moving around. 1 second. Means that they deny that area from teams. They deny this as a playable space, and they deny all of this, which are 3 power positions coming into the end zone. CCE has to die for another team to succeed, because otherwise nobody can really play these areas, and you're just going to see everybody from this side die, and then maybe one team move under CCE.
And this is the benefit of having a rampart just for a moment, because CCE will get a lot of attention. Falcons, Tripods, even Elevate, they'll realize that's a good spot. We want to take that from them. And yet with a rampart, it's going to be difficult. It will be harder to do than maybe that Fuse, Bloodhound, Bangalore that we've seen. Obviously, maybe even with a Catalyst as well, because those walls, not only are going to block out damage, they will return the damage just in kind. And so while we wait to see if they can hold it, a good spot for them, certainly as we head towards the end game. Disguised, DSG, we saw them a little bit, and right now Liquid Alienware rotating through Epicenter up to the top. They're still outside of zone, but they will find themselves with mostly a clear landscape to make a rotation. Just a few teams ahead of them in most hated, but Nizul, Jaguares, and Yanya coming off of what some may call a lackluster land performance. A team with so much talent, the only reason we would ever characterize it as such, Dia, is because we know how good they can be when they turn it on.
Oh, there's a quote from somewhere, something about criticizing because I know you can do better. I don't know what the quote is, but whatever the positive emotion coming out of that is for Alienware, absolutely. I've been such a big believer in this team, and Randy, I know you very publicly have been a big believer in this team. They've got incredible spirit and are one of those squads that has stuck together for a very long time, only doubling down on what's made them so impressive.
Absolutely, and these great pair, a great trio, really, I don't know what's beyond a trio, a quartet of people here, and Castillo, the coach, you cannot forget that. But they really have been a big part of Apex Legends. They've been a huge part of North America. They represent Mexico. It's a great region to support, but also they've just been a threat whenever they're on a battlefield. You cannot forget about them. Cloud9 moving through the Dark Veil. Chaotic wants to get a little chaotic here. Piercing spikes, not going to deny for long as the Thermite will open up the door. Wide swing there. Doesn't get the kill, and Chaotic actually takes damage from the Thermite. He goes down. Oh, that might have been a bit of a misplay, Dia. Now they've got to use the Rolling Thunder just to keep them inside the building and hopefully get this res off, but one might be coming back in kind for him.
Dynastic going on the swing just keeps C9 from being able to confidently stick the res. Instead, Chaotic has to use part of the knockdown shield on blocking the Rolling Thunder for Sorcerer. Naughty retreats as well with no Dark Veil. There's sightlines galore on C9. We saw this same misstep from Stallions earlier. C9 took them out and now fall themselves to the same issue.
We have seen this again and again. And Liquid Alienware on that rotation a little bit late, but maybe right on time if you're a Liquid Alienware fan. Mosaic not going to be able to withstand a lot of this pressure, and I feel like just a little bit of the havoc without any of the setup could pay dividends, but now looking for armor swaps as well. You know, a few of them have already been taken. Liquid Alienware want to be careful. They don't want to get in the same exact spot. Could be deja vu here as we have another attempt to siege. Will this be the successful one, or will they back off and say it's better to play with our lives than to lose them right here?
Yeah, great time to smoke, and I love the conservative play that we see from Liquid Alienware there for just a moment. Enemy, the Motherload picking up a kill on FURIA. Surprising there, but Vaxlon's able to get out on a sliver of HP, and DSG continue pushing FURIA forward, maybe picking up a few more kills before their time is over, because FURIA have nowhere to go. Native pick up a kill on them as well.
And that's part of the value of just showing enough pressure, showing enough force. Even though you don't wipe the team, what you do is you push them into Native's line of sight. They get one kill. It forces Vaxlon to try to solo, and you get that second KP. So sometimes showing force, not just through movement, but just through pressure, the right play, a little bit of a surprising ultimate that catches somebody off guard, it can lead to that domino effect that puts DSG in a good spot on this rotation. Few teams have gone down. 16 squads left here as we continue to watch this rotation. But DSG is a team that we have been highlighting earlier on today, and I feel like they just got a lot of potential. They've just perform well at LAN. They perform well in the split. They're a very, very consistent team in North America. And in many ways, they're fan favorites as well, not just with the org and Disguised Toast, but just the way that they've played and the results that they've had. A lot to root for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've certainly enjoyed watching DSG. They're one of our more stylish squads. We were talking about how that can certainly influence people's opinion of you today.
Yeah.
And I've loved watching them play for that reason and not that reason alone. Most hated, unfortunately, are on the receiving end of a very stylish one clip by Yanya, and now have to play defense in a 2 versus 3 with Catalyst Wall to help them out. Laser swings through. A Wope behind him playing anchor, doesn't quite lay down enough damage. Instead, going down himself another time to Liquid Alienware, and we should see a full squad wipe here, which is good for Liquid, because otherwise there are third parties abounding.
It's really hard not to mention the impact Native has had in the last 2 fights here that have taken place near Survey and Epicenter as they've tried to make their way towards the west of Skyhook East. Native Gaming have held this bridge, and it's one of those things that when we talk about RKN, who joined us yesterday, he said, I picked our spots on World's Edge to help me in a map that we usually struggle in. And it's a great showcase of a different style, a different strategy of that POI draft, trying to offset some of your weaknesses versus play to your strengths. It certainly worked for Native. They've been a good spot, grabbing a lot of KP and without really any pressure all game long.
These just melts Timmy for a moment. Nice shots with the devotion. This battle over Grandma's house, a lot like a very violent Thanksgiving, could go poorly for all teams involved, because remember, they've still got to walk through underneath that sniper tower we talked about earlier. As it appears, plenty more teams needing to make their way into Skyhook. Disguise do go down. Tripods pick up the kills and likely have a way to move into zone without the use of Wraith. I'd like to see them evac over this. But I'm not seeing it happen. I'll be honest with you, Rain Day.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a little more mobility.
Well, the Bangalore ultimate comes out, but that would hurt them, because then they'd have to run through it. I mean, Amun would have to stay behind. Zone's starting to push in. They still got some time, so want to play ahead of themselves. The Havoc is good enough to do that. It's going to apply pressure. They do not have a catalyst wall, so one of the only teams that have stuck with the remnants of Split 1 and the Caustic meta that accompanied this Bangalore and this Bloodhound. That means one thing. Well, it's going to be difficult for situations like this unless they get a little bit of luck, and they may not have it with Native set up to hit them on the crossing. But if they do get to end zone, they're going to be a very, very deadly team.
Team Falcons having taken the previous CCE position. Nice kill on Most Hated. Quick swap to the Eva just to make sure they get that last hit. Running a little bit low on energy ammo. I like that Zero gets to drop down, refresh on some much needed resources while Hal covers with nades. This is over towards where Native just rotated. Huge crack, and that's on tripods this time, as it looks like they were the ones slow to exit. Hal's gonna go in for the kills. The rest of Falcons coming in behind him.
Biggest issue right there. We just saw it. Not being able to throw up a wall. That Dark Veil means that the Caustic tripods, they're dead. And that is what we just brought up. Team Falcons, though, are the ones that really made it happen. And it's part of that play style that they love to do. How? Always on TSM, look to see how much KP can we get? How can we turn the game into our favor by taking control of a situation? Well, now with Zero, who does that as well, it's just double trouble. Adjun Burton with that aim and that level of play, they are not going to miss a lot of shots. So you better make sure that you got your crossings right, or you've got a plan if you start getting shot, because they will not take no for an answer once they get you in their sights.
Unfortunately, a lot of these teams in the building that Liquid Alienware reside in have to move. Take a look at the picture-in-picture, top left of your screen. This building is doomed. It is a no-go zone, and catalyst walls should abound on the exit from this particular building. Not a lot of ways to do it, however, as a lot will be going in the same direction, really limiting the options for visibility that these teams have on each other, but not necessarily those of teams like Vanity, SSG, Falcons that are in zone onto them.
Interestingly enough, we're going to see Liquid Alienware try to take this low ground, and they're just so close to doing it. Jaguares on the swing, goes right, then goes left, presses a couple of buttons, hits the trigger. That should be it for them. Liquid Alienware, find 3 more, elevate. See you later, back to lobby. 10 squads left. Yan them will stabilize down there. SSG still on top, winners of game number 1, and whoa. Falcons, oh, they're entering in a big way. Zero with that EVA 8 is cooking, but Imperial Hal, he's gone down.
Do wonder whether they'll be able to get the res. Zero wants to go for it with a squad pushing up on Hal. However, they're going to leave this one for Doomed. Maybe recover the banner later. There is a Moby right next to Team Falcons, but they would need to overcome a squad in order to do that. Native Gaming are the ones sitting on the outside towards this eastern side of the ring. The Falcons are setting up a defense just to make sure they're able to go for it. I think they're going on the push now, but Team Liquid stick a res meanwhile.
Now, I would have said that SSG have a pretty clear advantage here in a game like this on high ground. Although the problem is they've got teams like Liquid Alienware and they've got teams like Team Falcon and as well as Native who have been asserting themselves in this game. And so while things may traditionally play out high ground, teams have to fight each other on the low ground, you can pop in at the end and clean things up. You can expect maybe a play. Someone might not be satisfied in this lobby with 3rd place or 2nd. So SSG still have to be wary here, although they do look like they are in proud position.
Falcons got the banner. This could be big. SSG
they can't let this happen.
Looking all of this. I think SSG are completely looking at native right now. They see through the smoke that something's going on. 140 out of Koi. That's denying a whole res.
Gets his second perk too. That's actually a huge bit of damage as well. So he's going to get a little bit more access. And I think this is big for SSG just to deny Jin Burton. That was definitely Falcons. They're trying to go for it again. Can Koiful delay? They're trying to sink it. How may be back here?
You can't allow this to happen. Weave go down flat somehow down to one member. Took the central spot early. Have very little time left to play with this as the zone is closing in. This may just be Nano choosing to rat it out. He cannot take one tick of zone. Falcons are back as a three-man squad. How? Rockets down. SSG look at all of that, but they cannot push onto the low ground.
That is insane. I wonder just what was going on in their mind. Did they think the threat wasn't there? Were they just preoccupied with other things? You know, as much as that's SSG's job, it's not, because they've got to focus on where they're going to move, and Falcons take advantage of the chaos. This is what happens when a team will not relent, will not accept second place as an answer. They want to win. That is why this super team has been called a super team in the ALGS. But SSG, they're not really ready to give up that title of first place so far. It's the second game, another top 5 Dia, and they're looking to close it out as they go into the hunt.
Oh, and ignoring Falcons entirely, they drop down, taking down Hal, but ultimately falling themselves. SSG go down. Falcons still have 2 left to make it 1 as Zero somehow survives with the catalyst walls going up and down. Falcons go down, flat are out. It's Liquid Alienware versus Vanity for the win.
Shutting this down, catalyst walls left and right, and the Havoc singing. What song, what note will it play? Liquid Alienware hoping that it's a good tune as Nizel follows up as well. This team, we talked about them coming back and showing up in this split, and it seems like match day 2, they will. They'll grab the game and take the win here in match number 2.
Those are our boys, man. Liquid Alienware making it all the way back. Finding a win is so critical for them, especially in a zone like this where they have to go across the map to do it. What a series of plays from Liquid, and to make the exodus from the building that they did just a little to the south of Sky West. I think a lot of other teams would have considered a play like that impossible right now.
I think so too, and it's just such an interesting lobby. That's why when you get these levels of teams in there, it's also what makes Match Point so interesting. You've got teams that are usually asserting themselves onto the battlefield. They're not going to play passively as well. We saw Native in there, but they didn't really make an impact once they got to that top 5. It was a good result on a map they weren't necessarily excited for. But again, the personalities of Liquid Alienware, of SSG, of Falcons, they were meant to just butt heads. And it ended up being SSG and Falcons who essentially take each other out after battling for top and bottom locations on that building. But what a performance by Liquid Alienware, Dia. It's something that we talked about, and they're showing up here at the start of their match day.
I mean, it's one of those things that it evades a lot of the ways that we talk about players, you know, oh, like they've done this much damage, or they typically do this much damage differential. One of the things that's always impressed about Liquid Alienware and why it's so hard to count them out is that each of these players individually have that clutch gene in them. When they're cornered, they will fight, and for some reason, as opposed to other teams that have that same instinct, Liquid Alienware just win a lot more often than not, especially watching them in that building when a lot of other teams are thinking about their rotation, what they're going to do next. Liquid Alienware jumping from floor to floor and eliminating every other squad in that building snowballed them all the way into being the only team to make a cross with Catalyst.
And they're a team that likes to focus on, if we can get going, we're going to steamroll. They really have that as a game plan, and I don't know if that's something that's spoken about. I don't know if it's something that Pastillo, when they're talking and overlooking VODs, addresses, but it's also been the thing that, while working well for them, has plagued them in different ways, because if they don't get that steamroll, if they don't get that early start and take fights that go in their favor, a lot of times they remind me a little bit like 07. They can have one of those days where you go, where were they? You know, 10 points, 15 points, a 14th place. That's not what we expect from them, especially when you see games like this, where they grab a 20-pointer already in game number 2. But so many of these things start to characterize a team's journey as they get to the best version of themselves. Vanity, flat, showing up big there as well in 2nd and 3rd place. Team Falcons, SSG continuing to be consistent, dominant forces here in North America.
Yeah, still nice day for SSG with 2 games down. They haven't left the top 5 just yet. I believe it was ANC. Yeah, in EMEA this morning, ANC outplayed in their 6 games, placed top 5 in 5 of them. SSG are currently on the road to do exactly that.
Well, as we take a look at the second page also, you know, this is where Tripods, who have a phenomenal game number 1, you start looking at how can they improve here in game 2. DSG as well, a team that had some nice position, but people ended up getting caught in that same rotation. You saw NRG and Flat kind of go at it as they tried to cross that tunnel. Disguised, maybe getting caught up in some of that as well. There was a lot of elements in this game. It was a very interesting World's Edge match, and I feel like in game 3 we're going to see a little bit more of the same. If we go back into this final zone though, you can see that catalyst wall is the big difference, and with the Falcons already taking themselves out, Dia, I mean, walk me through how Niazul and Yanya and Jaguares are able to win this one.
Like you said, the catalyst wall starting things off works very well. The critical difference between these teams is the first double swing the Team Liquid take together. Both Niazul and Yanya making the first move all the way through the cat wall that they set up to find the first pick on Vanity makes all the difference in an end game like this, because otherwise, I mean, there's a good chance that Vanity get to combat this and it's a lot less close. But finding the first pick, making it a 2v3 situation is literally one of the most important things in Apex. It's why you so often see, oh, I cracked him, oh, I knocked him, now let's push. Because having that extra 100, 200 health between all of you just snowballs even further once you've eliminated it fully from someone else. Still very close games between these two, however, with, of course, their placements being so ridiculously close. Liquid, however, launched themselves up not quite to the heights of Vanity, given Vanity's consistency over 2 games.
That's a great way to start off your Pro League split with a nice big game there, taking second place. And if you would have won that fight, would have swung, seriously, probably would have been in first place, I would say, or at least tied for it with SSG. SSG, though, still doing so well in terms of the overall standings. Liquid Alienware, as a result of that win, right behind them, tied with Falcons for 4th. And Flat coming in after a nice third place there, excuse me, going to round out our top 5. Some notable picks, though, on the other side of the board. You know, teams that we saw like Weave, teams that we saw like Elevate, Most Hated, all those teams kind of had the same fate, Dia, just fighting your survey camp past Epicenter and getting caught up in maybe wrong timings on a push that just didn't go their way.
Yeah, I'm surprised by some of the starts that these teams have had, but the fortunate thing, Brandy, is that we've got 1 more map on World's Edge and then 3 on Stormpoint for them to turn that around. We've seen some big swings in the leaderboards today already in EMEA.
Well, there's always an opportunity to play better. I think teams now going into match 3 are going to hope that they don't have to do so. We'll see what happens as the action continues here on the ALGS.
Herman Miller is the official chair partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Apex Legends Global Series. Someone let me back onto the broadcast. I broke away from the break, and Dia, it's time to take all the action for ourselves. One more map on World's Edge, and honestly, I'm ready to see what's going to happen. It was really impressive to watch Falcons walk away with 10 eliminations despite not being able to take a win. They're still showing up and why they're a super team. And as we jump on to the map rotation, Liquid Alienware winning map 2 in one heck of a zone pull there on World's Edge.
Yeah, this was, we went over it quite a bit, but Liquid Alienware winning that, it was a cross-map win. They're moving all the way from Dome up towards the north. It stacks so many kills for them. But also, when we're looking at teams that play like this, that are going over a long distance, it's a lot of opportunities for mistakes, Tiff. And the fact that Liquid Alienware did not make any mistakes severe enough to take them out in the meantime puts them in sharp contrast to a lot of teams that were just moving from survey camp. I mean, Liquid almost went down in survey camp.
That's crazy, but hopefully they can hold on and keep it consistent here because we are locked and loaded for match number 3, our final map on World's Edge. And honestly, one thing to note, Dia, when I stepped away, it was quite interesting because the same thing that happened in EMEA this morning, the zone pulled north when I left, and that's very atypical from the way things move. I was really hoping for maybe a deep south zone, still looking for a thermal, but honestly, I don't know if we're gonna get that here in map 3.
I don't know. Could be. We're gonna wait for Liquid Alienware to figure out where this ring is going, as that has yet to reveal itself. Fortunately for them, they'll have a ring console to be able to scan, figure out a little bit more detail, but I'm crossing my fingers for you, Tiff. Maybe it'll be a south zone. Maybe you will get to go over to launch site, over to tree, as we'd predicted earlier, but I'm just taking my hands off the keyboard now because it absolutely is not. That is a straight line upwards. We are going north once again.
Perfect. I couldn't have imagined or wanted anything other than that as we pull up the map and see exactly, Well, I'm gonna leave now.
No, don't leave.
Goodbye. Yeah, honestly, I think you can solo cast this. I have full faith in you.
Like, the ring is determined. Like, it's not helping anyone. Then I'm just lonely, and we wouldn't want that. Especially, Tiff, I know you wouldn't want to miss what's going to go down in Game 3, because with SSG having gone on now a 2-match streak of being in top 5 both times, great games from them, now having another zone pull right into their territory should be setting Spacestation up to have one of their best match days in recent history.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. They walk away with a game number 1 win, 11 eliminations. You mentioned that top 5 alongside 4 eliminations, but do you see the rotate that's incoming from Falcons? This is something that I noticed yesterday as well. Anytime the zone started to pull into that skyhook area, just like that initial game, they waltzed right into underneath trials, took an impressive fight to secure that for themselves. And here they go from Lava Fissure, immediately jumping into skyhook where these zones intersect. So hopefully we can convert into some exceptional gameplay and more eliminations, but for now we just have to wait and see what our teams like Liquid Alienware, your winners of map 2, all the way down from Dome.
I can't help but wonder whether they'll interact with Weave as well, because Weave do land Sky West, and we're caught pretty off guard by that rotation. E8 gonna get really similar info right now, pulling off a pretty typical rotate when you have a ring like this coming out of survey camp, which is where E8 are dropping today. You will normally move up towards Grandma's house and then take the scan. This time having an evac tower makes that even better, and it should set E8 up for a good spot in the end zone if they're able to predict this properly, as they have struggled with in the past couple of days.
You can see here, they're not going to intersect with Weave. Instead, Tempr will be the object of their desire. Hal down here. Jen and Zero will have to clutch this up. One of the things that's to be said, I can only imagine what Zero is talking about now that Hal is down, and they're just probably looking to hit that res. Not going to come through as that thermite stifles that Jen with the Jenny down. That's hard to think about right there, but it happens.
Do you think that he says Jen when he puts it down?
Jen, go.
Doesn't seem very on brand for him, but like I kind of hope against hope that it's what happens.
For now, cloaked fully eliminated there, and Tempr to fall. The first team from our lobby. You asked where Weave was. Well, a well-timed third party for them as they make their move onto Falcons.
Could even take out this power squad that they've got on top of them, but are going to instead take this small moment to loot, which I do appreciate. I do wonder whether it's a smart use of their time, but if they can coexist with Falcons, then, you know, maybe a handshake is what you need. I will say, not what Falcons is known for. Typically, this squad will get very aggressive on you, and Weave are just completely focusing on the other squads around them, pushing Falcons away. And that's going to be the duo of Falcons unable to recover Hal.
Yeah, they went ahead and just left the building. You're right, they do not like coexisting or cohabitating in any of those buildings. So taking the leave there for now. Flat currently in 5th place with 22 points on the board, rotating over to Grandma's house, which is typical of what we've seen E8 just do, right? You want to grab this survey beacon atop, hit the player scan or man scan, as you've heard frequently, and for now it seems like they're going to bide their time, smoke it out, and see what their next course of action is.
Having this Grandma's house beacon is super nice. It's the rite of passage for every team. I think Flat are going to take it now, and then Stallions are in line right behind them. Disguised, again, getting caught up a little bit early on in the lobby. Aren't quite able to make the rotate, and they are relying on the Wraith port more than I remember them doing in splits past. It seems like this is the answer for Disguised, since they aren't running Bangalore to make every rotation. It means that this is an ult excel hungry team.
And also you can see when Design upgrades those Evo shields, which perk he locks in. That first one is going to be the ultimate cooldown, so he'll get it faster, coupled alongside ult excels that he usually has, but you can see none for the time being. But a Wingman Wraith, I mean, name a more dynamic duo, I'll wait.
Yeah, right. This is literally like what Design made his name on, is being able to, with the Wingman, which thank God is back on the ground, be able to pick off so many people so quickly. With limited mag capacity, you know, maybe Design's gotten a little bit nerfed this time around, but DSG don't seem to mind that one bit. They've got Timmy holding it down, taking out Onmu.
Love that he grabs that evac tower to rotate ahead of Onmu and just catch him. That's, if I'm Onmu right there, I just am like, really, Timmy, we gotta do this. And he did. And there goes the ult excel to get the beast of the hunt a little bit closer. And for now, they'll regroup.
DSG actually on a pretty silent side of the map. For the moment, they haven't got a lot of teams to run into, but we know that Liquid, our winners of last game, should be rotating up behind them momentarily. So a lot of these squads on the edge, while maybe not getting caught up in survey camp like they were before, are still going to be ultimately at the whim of Team Liquid, who are coming up from the south. I want to take a moment, actually, if we can, Tiff, talk about Team Liquid's pathing. I'm going to take a creative liberty and illustrate how they were rotating up last game, as we caught on to them just around here at Mod, where they then went up through Geyser, actually sticking around here for a beacon, and then moving up towards Fragment, into Epicenter this way, down, around Survey, and then over and into Skyhook for the win. This time around, Liquid, if you take a look at their positioning now, are following this path almost exactly, and it would be a big divergence if they were to move towards Disguised. I'd like to see them follow their pathing from previously and move through the Epicenter side, joining up with their previous rotate and maybe hitting this beacon.
Yeah, your creative liberty at first, I thought you were driving the Big Dipper there, and then it just got a little squiggly, but yeah, making its way over to Grandma's house in the north to grab that survey beacon, because as you'll see, you'll pick up all of the information of what's going on in that Skyhook area. Now, very unforgiving, because there's going to be 2 separate ways to get in there, but we've already got action that's going to be breaking through. FURIA on your screen, Vaxlon kind of holding up inside of Diner. You've got the teams inside the building just north of them. But it's going to be the Bloodhound scan that gives that information away.
Unfortunately, in Skyhook, you can bunker down for a really long time. And with the amount of teams that are running Catalyst, I think a lot of people in this ring are going, well, why would we fight? We don't know where next ring is going. We don't need a better position. In the next minute, that should change. But until then, it's going to be mostly the teams that are fighting outside of Skyhook that are drawing the most attention. Teams like Stallions that, granted, do not want to swing into nades. Retzi actually hurls a nice one, could find some cracks. We'll see what the comms from Stallions are like over the next couple of seconds. Retzi gets double swung on shot in the back, doesn't even trade back, 50 damage instead. Stallions have got to head for the hills because this fight is lost, Tiff.
It is going to attract the attention of everyone in the lobby that is still trying to make their way into Skyhook. And you already drew out the pathing. This is right where Liquid Alienware should be heading. And as you can see, we pull out that full picture. They're on the opposing side of the tracks. Now, will they make their presence known in this fight, or will they make a well-approached third party as Alb and Jaloan has moved up towards the roof here, looking for some sort of control? No nades, but we do have knuckle clusters galore waiting on that scan, likely to decide that push for them.
In a weird way, the fact that these shots have stopped may actually have saved both teams from the wrath of Liquid Alienware, because I don't see anyone sticking around and watching this fight, waiting for them to be discovered, and we haven't seen any gunfire from either squad in the past 30 seconds. It's given more than enough time for Liquid Alienware to move on past, and it's a bit of serendipitous silence for them both.
Yeah, yup, it was in that vicinity as well, and they dived right back south in disguise. More action for them. Job's not done. Enemy throwing out the knuckle clusters. We do have... Whoa! Oh, that nade connects. Jet goes flying, and here's Design into the void to reposition, but gets caught out. Retribution from Deeds across the way.
Who knew that we would be calling out Deeds, Gent, and Design playing against each other, especially Design and Gent, after so much history together in the ALGS. Onmu, formerly a championship-winning IGL, could make their way down, perhaps rescue the banner on the low ground. With Designful now being full thirsted, Timmy's eating crossfire from Onmu, and just this IGL is denying the path forward for Disguised. What will he do now that he's down to a duo? Can he even deny something like this res with the angle that Onmu has? I don't think he can.
Oh, he's gonna stick it. Oh, the angles, though. You're right. He's gonna keep on trying to make that happen, but will eventually have to invest the mother load in some knuckle clusters. But time is of the essence. We're sitting at about 20 seconds, but the damage coming through, and honestly, with the perks, you get all of the outlines from the players, and Fuse! Oh my god, enemy!
He takes down both of them after the res happened. Now that is Fuse just on a ridiculous level. Timmy knows that he's got this in the bag, swooping in onto both of them. Enemy Fuse changes the game for Design.
Enemy, oh my god. Now, you think this guy has just been in Apex comp for some time, dating back to Atlanta Premier, has played with other players that are competing here today, such as Crook. But since his staple time on DSG, this squad has been so cerebral, so fun to watch. They're always shaking things up with that legend composition. But you know what they gotta be wary of? The ring. And it hurts real bad.
It's the one thing you can't outplay in Apex Legends. Enemy's medkit actually will go off. He actually might be able to get a second one. I think he will. But I do wonder whether he's actually able to make it into the ring as a result. Waits out the banner. It's going to be real close, and Enemy doesn't have a lot of medkits to continue this. He's walking right up next to NRG, who have just ferrofluided the door.
I think production just told me that he did 562 damage there with those nades, so kind of cracked if that's what I just heard in my ear. But we turn our attention to the teams that have thrived so far in Skyhook, and NRG just on the outside of the edge here, making their way in, destroying those Watson fences, trying to clear out this building.
We go down as a team landing in Sky West, going down in 19th, not what they were hoping to cook up. An Enemy has made it in right next to NRG without having been spotted. Not a great spot in zone. Very, very close to the next ring, but not as close as Liquid Alienware, who have landed right next to it, even taking the building, this low ground, and making it their own. Good rotation from Liquid.
All right, Liquid, you won map number 2 with 8 eliminations, and it was, you know, in Skyhook. Despite the long rotation out of Dome, we've made it here and have found ourselves well positioned for that next zone. For FURIA, though, Keon on the lifeline would love to hear how they're going to approach this. Let's jump into a listen-in.
Okay, they just wasted scan. Okay, so now we should look to cross them with your next smoke. We should go now because they wasted scan. I'm gonna scan back.
Come left, come left, come left.
I'm going.
There's a rampart on top of.
We're good behind here. We're good behind here. Like I said, we're good. Keon, what's your Keon next care package?
I have to rip it all the time and get it back.
Kind of safe for me as well if you guys get hard pressured.
Yeah, Keon needs to just get a care package like here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to.
I think we need to play quiet because that fuse could
keep
fucking
scanning this
ruin
side
it.
though. Keep scanning that side.
Scanning it too.
I got a pack down here.
Good job. Scanning.
They don't know where they're gonna land. They don't know where they're gonna land. Top diner, top diner.
Can we blow that up?
Not really, no.
Looking for a vert on it.
I got a Moby here.
He's on the outside, on the outside, on the outside. Got him 80.
Careful.
He ran back.
I have a bunch of bats here. I dropped some if you need it.
Yeah, that's gonna be the fucking problem. We just need to not give him damage. Watch.
All I hear is that's going to be the problem, but I need a way to solve it. While we were in that listen, and Flat moved into this building neighboring Cloud9 and took down Team Falcons to do so.
And that'll eliminate a pretty big threat for CCE, who are in a power position. Last game, really big fan of CCE's position, got taken out by Falcons flying in on top of them. This time, they are, again, in a great spot with rampart walls on height in the next zone. And now with Falcons gone, maybe they won't get landed on and ultimately go down. You can even see their rampart walls overlooking so many kills that could be CCEs. And I call them kills, Tiff, because so many teams are going to have to move out of the western side of the zone that I guarantee you they do not all survive.
Well, this is going to be one of those biggest Gandalf moments. Slam it down. You shall not pass. Most hated has to get through. Yup, but Dynasty goes down first, and Laser trying to do what he can with the hip fire. It pays off. You take down Yup, but time is of the essence.
Yup got obliterated there. What looked like a fight that should have been theirs with the initial swing got turned around so quickly, and Most Hated have enough time to reset and then move into the zone. What I do wonder is whether they have enough cover. The Replicator having just spawned in front of the exit to this tunnel, maybe you can play around that and the truck for a little bit of survivability, but Most Hated will be right next to FURIA.
Oh, but Oblivion down there on the bottom of your screen, sending it onto NRG and taking them out. 11 squads here in this tiny zone of Skyhook, which is very typical of what we've witnessed. A dark veil splits the zone in half and allows Aiden to take some angles here.
It looked like such a good nade, but then immediately got turned around. In fact, so much so that Oxygen may just fall entirely. In fact, they do. C9 joining them, and CCE from up on height have been able to collect almost no kills for their trouble. Instead, defending underneath them against Liquid has taken the majority of their time. They've still got a good spot, but the kills having not come through could be a very bad sign for CCE. We'll see what Sheila's able to do up here. Not a whole lot through this Catalyst wall right now. And without a seer that used to be paired with Rampart for this very purpose, you can't really shoot through cat walls.
I'm scared. The last time I saw a Sheila on high ground was way back on a Storm Point North Pad game, and it was knock behind the amped covers with a Sheila. This time, World's Edge, you've even got the longbow looking to connect straight down onto that team overlooking them. That's going to be Most Hated. Made their way out, and you're right, just trying to use whatever cover they can. But for FURIA on the opposing side of the circle, alongside SSG, and even just a solo from Stallions, we've got our work cut out for us.
Moving down towards the south, towards where FURIA were just set up for this ring close. Having the last bit of height remaining in this zone should be the key that FURIA need to find a game win. They've just got to look out underneath them. Team Liquid pushing up on CCE, playing with fire on that Rampart squad.
Oh, the drop down from Jaguares to avoid the nade reinforces the door. We're trying to hold out for as long as possible here. See where CCE eventually jumps down. Baxlon, a rogue pickup onto a member of CCE, and then ALGS swoops in and takes out another team. So for now, a lay of the land, a dark veil for Team Liquid to hopefully aid them in their rotation out.
And remember that Most Hated are playing out of the tunnel as well, leading up from Landslide. They are untouched. They are not affected by this cluster of teams that is exiting the buildings. CCE go down, Stallions go down, 4 teams left, and Most Hated, again, are nowhere to be seen.
Jaguares just body blocks for Yanya. Well, he's got the shield back going through, and FURIA making their appearance finally, already putting damage onto Most Hated. We've taken down a Woke. We've got angles around the boulder, and it's just a matter of time before we have to drop down. But SSG fully healthy on the low ground, taking out Liquid Alienware.
And again in the top 5, this is SSG's day. Playing off the low ground, they should have to leave the building at the same time as FURIA. No catalyst for them. Can they find a way to separate these fights? Manage to avoid FURIA somehow.
We saw what Fuse can do in the hands of an enemy. And I want to see more from SSG, but FURIA, they jump down. Madness falls. Vaxlon to boot as well. What can Keon do? On the lifeline, it's Phony, it's Koi. We swing the final 2. The hipfires come through, and SSG continue the dominance here in map number 3.
How do they win their second game of the day? With FURIA dropping down from high ground, logic will tell you this should be a FURIA win. Even after taking damage from zone, they managed to outplay on the low ground. And Tiff, that is certainly one of the things that makes Apex so ridiculously special, is the fact that in the end, it comes down to execution as well. It isn't just a game like chess, moving your pieces forward, knowing that they're going to do whatever it is that happens when they reach that space. In Apex, you can move everyone necessary into the necessary space and still have them fall because they get a little bit outplayed. And that is absolutely what SSG does to FURIA in the final zone.
And honestly, can we talk about Zainu on the Fuse pickup as well? I was really curious to see how many Fuses would come through in North America, and it's more than I typically thought. We've got Enemy on DSG, we have Zainu on SSG, and like you said, this is their second win in 3 maps. Everything they've had on World's Edge has been a top 5 finish.
It's incredible what SSG has been able to do. And the fact that they've got 2 wins, Tiff, so close to getting them some of those nice points that come with finding 3 of them.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, that would be, oh my gosh.
We were like obsessed with those bonus points last split, and they never happened. And now I fear that by bringing it up, I've cursed SSG, but it is theoretically possible. If you score more than 50 points above the competition or win 3 or more of the games, you're getting bonus points on top of the points that you already get for winning match days and whatnot.
It is just 1, and I say just 1, but when it comes down to the end of our regular season, when we're looking down the barrel of what is to come for Split 2 playoffs, 1 point can change the trajectory between you going to LAN and you sitting at home or in the audience.
It really can. So important day for SSG to come out and perform. I mean, they have played really well. They're a team that a lot of people respect quite a bit, and ultimately played quite well, making it up to the top 20 teams of the playoffs. I believe they made it up to 13th, placing 3rd in the regular season. This is a team that nobody should be doubting coming into this split, but I also didn't suspect that they'd be coming out and taking out Falcons during their during their second day of the regular season. So I'm surprised to see them taking the lead by this large of a margin.
Yeah, that's kind of tough, right? We spoke to Zero at the end of the North American broadcast just yesterday, right? And I think it was a quote that I'd witnessed on social media where he was talking about anything less than first is a disappointment. And after our first 3 games on World's Edge, you know, they're not in first. They're not having a bad day by any means, and they could go on some crazy back end run on Stormpoint to change where they're currently at. But with SSG having such a dominating performance on World's Edge, even if they just kind of carry that momentum slightly with some more top 5s or even a well-needed top 10, this could be the day where they, I don't even want to say have a disappointment for Falcons, but maybe. I mean,
exactly. I'm going to take those words and sort of turn them here, because what should be noted is that we are not talking about Falcons having a bad day so much as it is SSG having an amazing one. And that's the nice turn I want to put on this, because Falcons are still doing very well despite this game perhaps not going their way. SSG do take first place with 19 points. FURIA also playing very well. They may not win the last 3v3, but FURIA, and I like that listening that we got with them, their positioning during these 3rd, 4th, and 5th zones ultimately put them in a much better spot than many squads would have imagined they had a right to.
I mean, it was quite impressive, and you're right to call in on that listening, because they're like, this is going to be a problem. It's like, how do we solve it? And they walk away with double-digit eliminations. Most hated that performance they had in tunnel, eliminating Yup and balancing around the replicator and getting out into the open. That team fight saved their long game. As we jump on over to the back half of this lobby, Disguised walk away with 4 eliminations. Now, granted, that whole area, that fight in Countdown was so tough for them, and we said it, right? North of 500 damage alone from enemy when he was trying to stick that res. It was just time was of the essence in that ring. Once you get into the later half of the mid map, it starts ticking hard, and they just could not get out of there.
The Disguised play with the nades is going to live rent-free in my head forever. I will not be facing a Fuse team for a very long time, I really hope, but given how much the ALGS tends to inspire ranked play in North America, somehow I doubt it. DSG do go down without any placement points, but with 4 kills, and that alone should be very impressive. I'm surprised they didn't get any placement points as well, because enemy survived for quite a while. Now, SSG, taking a look at their stats off of this match, do have a lot to be proud of, especially Koifel with 2,000 damage in a singular game.
I mean, these are solid, right? A 2K in this level of lobby, quite impressive. I'd love to go ahead and get Rain Day back in here so we can start chatting about this, but it's a good chunk of elimination. 7 overall, very nicely.
Start for SSG, who have been on the tip of the tongue, whether we were casting in game 2 or now in game 3. And in fact, while we did so much talking about them, D, in game 2, it's the only game they didn't win. I mean, this is incredible from the start. And again, it goes back to, well, there's great players in Apex Legends. I kind of look at it in this way, where we have gotten to this point with Apex being now 5 years old, year 4 of the ALGS officially, that, you know, there's a lot of skill everywhere. It's not like somebody is a bad player or can't hit shots. So what is the difference between a successful team or not? Maybe you have these moments where Hal and Zero, but for most of the teams, I feel like it's just a synergy thing. And I feel like there happens to be some really good synergy with how they've started. They've shown in scrims, they've shown it here in the first 2 match days, but can they keep it up is really now going to be the question, because they've made a heck of an introduction. Somebody who knows a little bit about SSG and definitely knows a lot about the Pro League as well. He's a longtime pro and one of the faces of the scene. Let's bring it up to Dropped, who's going to be joining us here for the halftime show. Representing the Spurs hat, my man. You know, as a Lakers fan, I don't know if I can give love to the Spurs right now, Dropped. You're making this a hard intro, man, but hey, still happy to have you, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
So, you know, one of the things that I think is interesting, because you have had such a journey here in Apex with previously Optic, and now with your new roster as well, representing yesterday and your guys' performance. You were on SSG prior to that. We talked at LAN before you and Znile and Frex split up, and that SSG no longer exists. In fact, kind of maybe the talk of the town right now in terms of these 3 games. I want to just get your take on how you feel the landscape is in North America. There's been so many roster changes, so many big conversations, but as a pro in this offseason, in scrims, heading into the first weekend of Split 2, what are your thoughts as to where people stand in North America and yourself?
I think that it's definitely been like the craziest roster mania and roster changes that we've ever seen in Apex. So it's definitely been very interesting, to say the least. I think for myself personally, you know, it was definitely rough for me, because I came off of a bad performance last split. So it's like I didn't have, I guess, the bargaining power that some other teams had with the EWC and, you know, so on and so forth. So definitely a very crazy time for Apex Comp. And I mean, exciting for some people. You know, I know I've seen a lot of people saying that the super team with Hal and Zero and stuff makes it boring for them. And, you know, I can see that perspective too. But yeah, I mean, just a crazy time for Apex Comp for sure.
It's 100% crazy. I personally don't think it makes it boring. It just makes a lot of room for other teams to kind of step up and look at a level. And granted, I loved something that you said there, and it was interesting because you're like, I didn't have the bargaining power when it came into roster mania. There's a lot of recency bias based on performances, right? So what are some of the things that you did when putting together the squad to try and kind of come away from that? Granted, you picked up a solid coach / analyst. You guys are working with Raven now.
Yep. Yeah, no, we have Raven, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, like by no means, you know, the team I have now we're not slackers at all. Just kind of speaking to the entire roster mania, you know, there was a lot of things that happened before I came to this squad and how we came together. You know, there was just a bunch of different things that happened. So, yeah, I'm very happy with the team that I ended up coming to. And yeah, I mean, it's just been a crazy ride, to say the least.
Well, dropped. I mean, while your journey has been a crazy ride, I want to focus in on what we've got today, because walking through the final circles with pro players, with coaches, is always one of my favorite parts of the broadcast. So let's take a look at the first game. This was the first SSG win, although, you know, maybe not the last of the day. And this one's over by Overlook. What did you make of this final 3v3 and the way that SSG were able to, say, take control of this endgame?
I actually really love the way that SSG played this game. I actually rewatched their VOD back after the game, and because I would probably use the same way they played this myself. I mean, they just basically held out their back towards Climatizer's side. They didn't allow the SkyWest Trials team to come in behind them. And then essentially from there, their whole side of zone was just free. And they just walked in towards the rock behind them on the replay right now, and held their space on that side. And I mean, essentially they just blocked everyone from coming to their side of zone, and then just won the 3v3 at the end, which they had the advantage in as well.
Almost managed to do it here. I think SSG again came off of a powerful position, but the story ended up not being really about them in the end zone, especially when we get into Skyhook and there are a lot of teams in the surrounding area. I know you've been in this situation, but how can you mitigate spots like this? Is this something where you sort of throw your hands up, or how do you think about in an end game scenario when things are so chaotic, making the best play for the team?
It kind of just comes down to split-second decision-making. I mean, from what it looked like to me, it looked like SSG was trying to jump in the balcony to catch the green building team off guard, but I think they just missed. That's what it looked like to me. And then they ended up just jumping straight into Falcons. I don't think if they were going to fight Falcons, they would have jumped the way that they did. I think they just missed the jump.
Little bit of missed intentions, right? And it happens. FURIA still managed to, in this last game, have a really good spot. Again, SSG right below them. And it does feel like we're saying their name a lot. I was really impressed with the way that both of these teams were able to navigate finding themselves in this building. But final 3v3s like this are really tough. And you did mention that in game one, you went back, you watched the VOD. When you're going back and watching VODs like this, are you thinking about like what POIs you're planning to draft in the future, what rotational paths you'd like from those positions? What are you looking for when you're doing VOD review as a player?
Yeah, so that's actually exactly what I was doing, because in the next Pro League day that we play, we're going to have first pick. And SkyWest Trials is obviously a very top tier POI that, you know, is like an option for us. So when I was rewatching that VOD, I was thinking, okay, you know, they played this way and it was really good. So I went back and rewatched it, like I said, and I was like, you know, I would probably use the same exact way they played that from SkyWest.
A lot of good play here as well dropped in. It's great to see you competing, and thank you for taking the time, my friend, to join us on the broadcast. Always great to hear your insight and spend a little time with you here when the competition isn't as fierce. Hopefully you enjoy watching the rest of the games, and good luck in the rest of the split, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, dropped, ladies and gentlemen. Dia, great breakdown as well with those final circles. Some interesting questions. We will, simmer on those while you take a little bit of a break and Tiff and I get ready for game 4. You've earned it. And of course, we will see you back here for 5 and 6. Tiff, let's start talking about game number 4, because we switch it up. We go to Storm Point, new map, new opportunities. And again, the POI draft now has its impact yet again, where teams who have prioritized those picks for Storm Point get a chance to see if that's going to level up their game.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at some of our picks, but honestly, I wish we could have kept dropped for this POI draft discussion. My man was on it in terms of VOD reviewing, looking for maybe what they want to play out of in particular for their next match day, but the pick number 5 was the first time we see a zone go for Storm Point. SSG grabbed Lightning Rod, and earlier in EMEA, 07 was landing Lightning Rod and didn't really find a lot of success for there. But SSG has been having such a phenomenal day, but I think it'll be really interesting. Also, Team Liquid grabbing Echo HQ. It makes sense knowing how much experience they have out of Echo, and because a lot of the zones have been pulling south.
I mean, one of the craziest things about this is we are seeing our number 1 team use their 40th pick, the very last draft pick, the Dome, to secure a first place on World's Edge for today. That's pretty bizarre, pretty amazing. Actually, you know what? When you look at it and you consider that that was yesterday, it's still a 5th pick coming in for Storm Point. So being in that position for them, or what, I think it's 35 they were able to grab, it's still a very strong showcase from SSG to be able to kind of turn the tide and find a way to, while they're not prioritizing World's Edge, still be a relative threat. And it goes to say, maybe just sometimes there are more important factors there than when you're landing. That's what the POI draft is helping to expose here in terms of the value that people are putting on it in the ALGS.
It's true. You can see pick number 37 going the way of Coastal Camp. I mean, you think yesterday Team Falcons found success from Coastal Camp, and that goes in 37th. Then pick number 40, Devastated Coast, with a lot of the zones pulling south yet again. That's where we start seeing the prevalence of those southern POIs. Tripods walking away with Pylon. Falcons from Launchpad. Now, mind you, they had 20th and 21st pick today. So it's a very similar position on Storm Point, not as south, of course, as Coastal, because honestly, in my brain here, I see why Echo goes first. Echo, we heard earlier just how much loot they have, specifically from Luke over in EMEA, the coach and analyst of Game and Gladiators. The only thing I have to say about this is, well, I love that Trident was picked up. No one electing to grab Prowler's Nest yet, honestly, and I don't blame them, because that's probably the worst POI that you could possibly get.
At least our pros think so in terms of that as well. We're still keeping track of all of these numbers as well. The draft took place 2 days ago. We've got the full stat sheets. I was looking at day 1 a little bit there, but again, still SSG with Lightning Rod used their 5th pick to prioritize this position here. One of the notable things too is that with 36, they picked Sky East, and I feel like that's open so late because of the contest that people don't want to do in Sky West. But when you really look at it, Tiff, it's still a very strong location to be starting from. So in many ways, while they did have a later pick, I wonder if it's just an undervaluing of the contest possibility of Sky East, and a lot of teams going maybe overlooking the value of picking any one of those POIs.
It's hard, right? If you're comparing Sky East to Sky West, I'll take Sky West all day. Everyone will. And Sky East usually gets picked way later on. But for now, we'll see where that zone is going right off the rip. And Oxygen Esports and Barometer with a potential for a good zone. Now, granted, once they hit that ring console and start finding that information, we'll see where they would like to play this zone from. But this is going to give teams like Cloud9, Liquid Alienware, Tripods, and even Native Gaming from Jurassic a power position to hit that rotate quick.
Yeah, you see it so often, these barometer starts, there's going to be huge rotations over into the south side of the map. And, sometimes it works out well for those early rotated teams or teams that start there. Oxygen Esports and Aiden, Reed, and Frex, being able to Aiden, Vane, and Frex being able to really find their rhythm a little bit yesterday, trying to pick up pace as well today. Wasn't a bad performance at all. It was actually quite strong. But when you talk about rotations, this is where Native, as you see McLovin, who was titled by his IGL Arcane, who joined us yesterday as the Truth, which I like. The Truth. Them and Rambo make a very fast rotation, and it's because, maybe they feel very, very confident about IGLing on this map. Arcane has let us know about it, and they're going to find this spot with a catalyst and secure it up here. Real quick.
Really interesting to see. Yeah, Oxygen have moved out of Barrow and into a neighboring building. But for teams that are going to be making their way from the upper areas around, Falcons be able to kind of rotate here through Prowler's Nest, get some shield bats, maybe, or not shield bats, some attachments and cells and syringes, and also grab that Evo cache for clearing out the nest.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you don't have to be too confident to do it, but you're making noise. You know that if things are a little bit atypical, then you might be attracting the attention or the ire of some neighboring squads. But overall, Falcons not worried about that too much. NRG sitting in 7th place overall with 19 points on the day. Fun, Reptar, and Nocturnal rocking the Catalyst, Bangalore, and Bloodhound. It's just been so stereotypical for about 75% of the lobby to be rocking something just like this, or exactly like this, and for good reason as well. How do you feel about Caustic kind of falling out of the meta and Catalyst coming back with these changes? Are you enjoying this meta?
I mean, yeah, it's still a lot of visual clutter either way you look at it. It's just a different iteration of what we're seeing. But Catalyst, once you get that rework and they lower the cooldown on the piercing spikes, just 5 seconds, and just some of that, I think it makes sense, especially on Stormpoint when you have some of these heavy hitting rotations out in the open. It's going to allow you that shred of cover. And honestly, when we saw it just in those World's Edge endings in Skyhook, just really dividing the end game circles coupled with smokes, it's a little bit chaotic, but it makes sense.
One of the weird things too is like kind of what changes the meta in Apex. So many times it is a character kind of falling out of favor. Sometimes it's a character getting a little bit of a necessary buff that was close, and sometimes it's some of the intangibles that you would feel from a distance that would make it such a big deal. Fuse, though, being able to get that Ringmaster perk, taking away losing damage, getting, I guess, less damage from explosives, which really never had a place for most people's loadout. But now being able to see ring consoles, it's completely changed and given options to a more aggressive style while not having to sacrifice the information, which is, often do or die, crucial to living or actually having a chance in a game like this. That's where we've seen DSG utilize it, but right now under a ton of pressure from Alberlelli and squad. Designful almost down, and it's Timmy trying to round the corner as well. He may not make it, Tiff. This is close. They're just trying to get out of dodge, but Alberlelli and squad are right on the track, and they do get Timmy.
Yeah, Alb on the forefront right there, able to just take a chunk out of DSG's health. Now the Dark Veil comes out, allowing them to push through with cover. We're going to dodge out of that frag, and blowing with the scan, looking for the remnants of him. Design has fallen, and now can we find enemy?
Yeah, he should have gotten out of there, hopefully. If you are DSG, that's what you're saying. Still one of the legends that we don't see very often. I'd say the least picked pool of legend is the support. And so while there are a few lifelines in EMEA, I don't think we're seeing almost any here in North America. You never know. Stormpoint, we have seen a switch. We've even seen it with, I believe, Falcons at times. And, we'll see if that continues to be there. But no chance of recovering those banners or crafting them now. It's going to be a tough game for DSG enemy. With Retzi still on the trail, I mean, it may not be a long game.
No, but can we just talk about how we pan on over? We see a Slayer clutch, now a reset for them just on the outside of that next zone. Stallions, though, on the hunt, had taken down some members of DSG, but job's not done for them. They go ahead, evac on over to Command Center. Now, here's the deal. That scan's gonna connect. One hostile detected. I can only imagine, of course, that this is enemy on blue, and Alb is just ready to put the finishing touches on to DSG. Connects for 126, swaps the gun, and goodbye, DSG.
You better not forget about me, says Alberlelli. One of those names that we were saying for so long in the early years of Apex Legends. And now you find out that with this team, maybe with Retzi as well, former Sentinels, and of course, just a OG Apex Legends Pro, which alone, maybe they could really figure it out. Stallions have certainly charged into battle quite heavily here, as you see a little bit more of the barometer shake up, and south it is for all the teams, except Stallions, who just finished up their meal of DSG.
Good call there for Oxygen to move into that building and Native Gaming to waltz on in there quite early on, thanks to the neighboring POI of Jurassic. But keep your eyes on Team Falcons here. They've hit the rotate out of Launchpad to wrap around and grab this survey beacon to see what is free on that neighboring zone. SSG also waits it out in Stormcatcher on their rotation from Lightning Rod to grab that ring console information and a survey beacon scan to determine their end game pathing. NRG here, though, flying just towards the north to see how they're going to wrap through. And I can only imagine that Stallions and Vanity will likely run into each other as they keep looking for that extra information.
Taking a note of the picks up on top of your screen, 19 out of 20 Bloodhound picks and 2 out of 20 for Fuse. DSG was one of them. They will be out. Not quite sure who the other one is, at least as of now. But one Rampart, one Valkyrie, and one Loba. And what you might be interested to note is that is all on the same team. CCE, yet again, with some unusual picks here in the Pro League, but hey, why not? And I love it, and I feel like this is the time, the split tip, where you need to make strong changes. You got to believe in yourself. Maybe you have to shake things up a bit because, I don't know, if you just feel lackluster and let things happen, it feels like a lot of teams are going to run away with this one. I like the change up, and I like the confidence, too.
The confidence, of course, but a lot of the legend composition picks that we see from CCE delineate from their landing spots here on Storm Point, more specifically Command Center, right? You think of the evac tower or a Valcolt from that rotational aspect where the grav cannon is. You can get that extra height to hit a rotate specifically south, so we'll keep tabs on them, but SSG making their way, and Hal with a bit of a rat play, playing small per se.
I mean, that was incredible from Falcons, and that was just unbelievable from SSG. You got to be thinking, there's no way we just died to that. And now probably the hardest 2v3 you could imagine here. A full 3 of Jim Burton 0 and Imperial Hal on purples with SSG just trying to heal up and stay alive. While they are on reds, and there are opportunities, Koi and Phony, I mean, it's time to put money where your mouth is here in terms of high performing. You're leading the lobby for a reason. Falcons don't like it. They're trying to take you out. And Zainu already paid the big price.
I think it's a really good surprise attack for them. And now that scan incoming from SSG will give the information away of Valken's current location. But with round 2 ring closing, we're just looking for angles here. Hal answers back with a scan of their own. Will they disappear through that grav cannon and try to run away from Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting because Falcons are in a tough spot with the zone pushing in. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to, I don't know. It's the question of do you bite off more than you can chew? You can't really let this team get away. Just the confidence and the ability of these players, they're going to feel that they are in a right spot to take this fight. But I don't know, what does this mean? Not just for this play and finishing this off, but for the next play. Zero finds one, gets the shield swap easy. And they may just have to let one go with that. SSG, though, eliminated. But here's the problem. It's not that play. It's this play. With NRG hearing the noise, Falcons, they should be wary.
NRG show up. Reptar immediately throws down Beast of the Hunt. And for Falcons, who can only tank this ring for so much longer, have dived deeper into Pylon. Now, what's really great here is that NRG are patient in the aspects. Now, tripods, they want to gatekeep the gatekeepers. That's the risk that you run when you try to make a play like this.
I mean, it's the risk everybody runs, and everyone's just waiting for somebody else to fall to pick up the pieces. It's an interesting dynamic here, and I think Zero, Jim Burton, Imperial Hal might just be saying, should we just gravity lift this? Let's heal up, gravity lift, and then fight wherever. I think it's the smartest play. They're going to do it. Where will they land? There is a team there. Stallions is going to be relatively close. This may not work out for them, but it all started with trying to chase down SSG.
Jen right here switching over to Catalyst, gets the Dark Veil for Storm Point, immediately throws it down to cut off the line of the sight from Stallions and immediately rotate in. However, they're not alone. Vanity on the other side of this gate. So now they'll have to deal with not only Stallions, but Vanity.
Yeah, but they stabilized, and that's the big thing that they needed. However, they meet the same exact fate on the other side. There's a team waiting to gatekeep them, and now a team moving in. So instead of being the ones gatekept, they are, again, a little bit too early, not late enough to this party, where they are going to have to face pressure on multiple sides as well. I know Falcons have something up their sleeve, though, but again, giving this team a chance, it's going to be very, very difficult. Jin Burton, Zero, and Imperial Hal, they've dealt with situations like this before. Imperial Hal's got his team out of it, and now Zero going to help direct Hal as well, as he's given that role of IGL over to them, and they push over. Let's see and listen in to how they handle this situation.
Look out of your left! Look out of your left! Swing, swing, swing! I can't see. I got the shit. Batting, batting! Watch out, blood! Watch out, blood! What? Okay. They're all three on top. Blood was one. Blood was one. Dead. Nice. You almost kick bang. Almost kick bang. Shooting, 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 shooting. Away.
Bomb and blood out there.
I couldn't see anything.
I think this was inevitable from the very beginning. It was very Thanos-esque in terms of what was bound to happen in Stormpoint. And that's why I say you got a lot of space, Tiff, but you really don't. There's only a few ways to rotate, and you could just get caught like that. And it was like they did their best, but once that SSG fight happened, it was almost predetermined there would be too many teams blocking their pathway out.
Yeah, that's the risk that we talked about, right? You dive into ring, take down SSG, but then you get gate kept by multiple squads, and you pop that grav cannon to maneuver around, but land in the open arms of multiple teams. And one calm there from Jen before we touch base on what's going to be happening over here towards Barometer is I couldn't see anything. That's that visual clutter given some of these abilities that are so prevalent in today's meta that can happen when you get into those really tight-knit engagements. You need to be able to see, and if you don't have scan or you're not able to grab that beast of the hunt and you're not the Bloodhound player, right? You're on Catalyst, it makes things a little more tough.
Tripods have done an interesting thing here. They've committed to Deeds running the caustic. It's really the only caustic that we're seeing in this lobby. It's from a meta's past. And now, while holding on to it, you still will potentially see the threat. They're in a pretty decent spot right now. Not a lot of pressure. NRG are going to come from that southeast side, but I doubt that they're going to take bridge right away unless they get forced down from Oxygen Esports or Cloud9, who are sitting up on top of Barometer, on bottom of Barometer with Liquid Alienware on top of it. So right here, I think Tripods are actually in a great spot. Now, NRG, who are in the middle of that fray, who made it difficult for Imperial Hal and the rest of Falcons to move in, they've got a chance to make a play themselves. They just have to stay low enough on the radar and find someplace safe. A Dark Veil, it's gonna buy them a little bit of time, but they have to figure out a place to play, and it's looking like there aren't a lot of spots there.
And Nock just rotated wider than anticipated to kind of look for that information. Here comes the frag grenade spam, and Fun takes a lot of damage. We hear Beast of the Hunt get popped elsewhere. Reptar deleted. Now Fun, only really a glass cannon. Oxygen Esports, who's been here in this building on that opposing side, want to defend the home turf. Now, you run this issue of rotating into your own POI and holding from the beginning. You need resources, but they're still kitted out quite nicely despite how long they've been here.
I think this should just be kind of a lesson. We've seen a very interesting macro move from teams on the east side and the southeast side rotating into Barometer, or really more of like the east, maybe northeast side rotating into Barometer. It's very difficult. These are the spots that you have available with every team already there. Oxygen Esports, a good example of it. It's not a lot. So while they're in a good spot right here, they still have to take advantage of it. They've done the dirty work to get to 10th. Can they take it even further with this new squad here? They will give up a KP just to stay alive a little bit more, as Liquid Alienware look to maybe fall down here. Tripods will be eliminated as well. That Caustic will not make it into a top 5 yet again and get caught out on the rotation. But Weave, all of a sudden, 11th place, Tip, starting to look like they've cleared out some space in front of them and have a chance to be aggressive.
They need to finish the rest of flat. There should be one member left standing. You can see them with their enemy pings over there by that rock. The scan proves that true. Now, are we swinging straight onto the last member? It seems as if that's the play we're going to make. Native there on the opposing rock. So inevitable fate there for Flat. But we turn our attention over to CCE, able to play the underside of this walkway here solely because of that Rampart Loba combo.
I gotta say, Arcane is backing it up here. I think he's putting himself in some pretty good top 5-esque situations. Says he's much better on Storm Point. Prioritize our picks on World's Edge for the draft so we can offset that weakness. And look at that. Well, it's paying dividends here. They're looking like they could make an impact as we move into closer and closer of our final 5 here. 19 players still remaining. Round 5 closing here in 39 seconds as they have just that much time to make it in and find a safe spot. Loader, he's gonna find a Dark Veil that will block off half of the site, but they'll lose 1 in the process as well. Trying to stay alive, and it still will happen, but Oxygen Esports maybe in the best spot here as they're still in the building despite everyone still looking at it.
Well, we got 7 squads left in a Rogue Fun as a solo nearby this building. He had some pop-off moments as a solo in some of the games yesterday. Got himself into a top 3 finish. We'll see if he'll be able to do that again. But for Weave, who have had this rotation, they had to use the Dark Veil, also dodging through the Bang ult, spending a lot of resources to make sure they get to where they are. I don't love that position, but for now, it would cost the teams deeper into this building a lot to try and go for an angle on that. Keep your eyes over there on Native, piercing spikes to anchor out that area, but Oxygen holding down the inside of that building, and then CCE is here.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a very interesting spot if they're gonna have to move. But the benefit of this, and like we've seen with ANC Outplayed earlier, is when you get yourself in top 5 situations multiple times in a 6-game set, good things happen. And they ended up winning. They didn't win a game in EMEA. They took first place overall on the match day. CCE, not quite close enough to doing that, but this could be the start, especially if World's Edge and Storm Point, excuse me, goes their way. But Oblivion on top, they're sitting nicely.
They really are, and I'm trying to look at their resources, and we jump on over to Reeds. Interesting to see here. They have been playing really well together, and I love that they've kind of got King of the Hill action up top here, and keeping angles on all the teams, more specifically Weave, who have moved out of that crevice corner and in towards the opposing side of the building, and all the piercing. Oh, the clutch reinforcement of the door from the outside from LOTR. That's a kind of play you love to see.
It's nice. It just buys a little bit of time. The zone hasn't pushed yet. And so they're going to have enough time to kick it down, but it's going to make it predictable, and it's going to give them something else to do besides shoot at them or throw nades, arc stars, or apply pressure. So great heads-up play there. CCE have been able to move and use this wall just as cover for now. The question is, what do they do when they come out there? You can expect a Sheila. You can expect maybe a little bit of solo play from Cap on Loba if it feels like it's desperate and they need to survive. But Oblivion holding inside as they should with the Catalyst for as long as possible, they're saying to themselves. Native also still alive as a 3. RKN still on blue, but Rambo and McLovin down below on the staircase. There's 6 squads remaining. Anybody's got a shot right now.
I love that we're kind of toggling on this angle, but we just talk about all the issues when you walk through an enemy Dark Veil and get crazy, and now Beast of the Hunt active. We have to climb up through this. Dupe, Oblivion, Zenile, biding their time, cutting off those line of sights before they hop on up. Look at CCE. Now this is interesting, right? You would usually make that kind of structure with a Watson Jenny behind it, but they don't play Watson, right?
It's interesting because you could see Watson maybe having a big impact there, but it's the Loba that's gotten them to this position. What can they do here? Taking on Yup. They do lose a few. Reeds also dips down in and gets involved. Yup eliminated. CCE going down as well. It's 4 squads left. Native should be falling too. It's Oxygen Esports and Oblivion who have held the buildings, and Weave has been on top. Can they make a play as they drop down, or will Oxygen find it? Oblivion here with Reeds and Blinks. They may just be able to drop in Tiff and finish it off, and it's looking like it could happen, but Oxygen Esports, they breathe life into their game and they win match number 4.
That is one of the end games that I'm going to have to run back on speed dial from like 15 different POVs. And at the end of the day, Oxygen Esports converting a barometer circle where they land as their drop spot all the way throughout is impressive. Now, it's quite interesting, right? Because you've got some changes. Frex is coming in from former SSG, playing alongside Oxygen. Reeds going from Oxygen Esports over to Oblivion, who find themselves kind of battling it out, that former roster, and Oxygen Esports taking away that place out. But Reeds, of course, is going to have information from all the times that he's landed Barometer to make that play and go the long game.
You know, Tiff, I got to do something because it's not often that you see this, but we've been reached out to by a Twisted Humanoid who has a son named Alex Tiny Titan, who is having a 13th birthday, a big 13th birthday, and Oxygen Esports is his favorite org. So I want to give a big shout out to Tiny Titan, representing Oxygen, staying up late, watching the ALGS. We appreciate you and all of our young fans out there, and everyone who's aspiring to be a pro, and congrats on your favorite team getting a dub.
That's true. I love to see that. And it's so fun to see a lot of our up and coming younger Apex players, because who knows, one day maybe they'll be up here and you'll be casting on over them.
That is true. That is true. And I actually feel like as players are getting more invested at earlier ages, you know, we could be casting younger and younger players. And that just means they have longevity as a huge part of their esports careers. Well, it's so exciting to see that happen. Obviously, Oxygen Esports with the W there, Tiff. It was a tough in-game, though, to manage and even to anticipate how that was going to go. Barometer has that element of tough to get in once you're not in early, which is why we see such fast early rotations there. But it's also one of those difficult things because you have layers upon it, a lot of buildings, a lot of floors to those buildings that you could play. And then there's a lot of outside space that in some ways is very, very safe. And in some ways, you're getting shot from like 17 angles, depending on who's there. So it's a weird zone. And that's why I think it takes a lot of skill and a lot of clarity for a team to navigate it well and come out with the win.
Yeah, and I think that's why I wanted to run it back. This is probably one of those things that I'll look at tomorrow in VOD review, similar to like what Dropped was talking about, because I want to see it from all those different angles and kind of slow it down and maybe pause and be like, these are the things that would have changed a course of action. But we've got the match 4 results up. Oxygen Esports walking away with 19 total points. Oblivion, who had moved in and taken the rooftop of that building initially, walk away with 18 and weave quite impressively 8 eliminations and 15.
You know, I think one of the best things about Oxygen and, you know, these teams like Liquid Alienware is that they continue to stay relevant across different splits, no matter who is joining that squad. And I have to only, as we show that back half of this, focus again on the SSG that has now separated. And Frex, I talked about him and the fit with SSG, but you could see just the talent and the experience that him as a player brings into an Oxygen squad. No hate on Reeds, but fitting in with Aiden and Vayne. You know, this is now a team as well poised to win and take it all the way. And certainly at LAN, they know what they're doing. They'll only get more experience with that. Rough start for Team Falcons there, but as we look back, Tiff, here's how that final fight went down, and Oxygen was able to clean it up.
Yeah, I love that we get to see it from a different angle, right? Oxygen kind of drops down into the amped covers that CCE had positioned early on, and Oblivion Reeds here, Blinks are still up here. We lose out on Akimbo, who had dropped down earlier. Weave gets eliminated, and we just start frying, and it's not enough despite the jump down here. Vayne, Frex is right there. They stay healthy, and they just withstand somehow.
Oblivion on high ground. It's not always the benefit to have the high ground. I know we have been told that from the very beginning, but one of the things is when you land in Apex, unless you're Horizon, you have a little bit of a hiccup. I call it a hiccup, but you're slow a little bit. Your aim doesn't quite immediately go back to full control, and that leaves you vulnerable. And Oxygen Esports taking that spot from CCE, which interestingly enough, credit to CCE, ended up being the winning spot. They just weren't able to survive there long enough. They bounce back into the fray, and with a win, put themselves in 4th place overall on the day, with Flat, Liquid Alienware, and SSG leading the pack. Vanity right behind with 29 points. Today, though, it's, you know, still 2 more games left. Anything can happen, especially on the likes of our backside, Tiff.
That's true. And honestly, SSG, despite not having the best game, everything that they did on World's Edge, those 2 wins and a top 5 performance in the other game, is exactly what was needed to keep that consistency moving across. Now, granted, we still have 2 more games to go. Can SSG hold on to the top of the leaderboard? We'll have to see after this break.
Battle Beaver is the official controller partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series. We've had a really long day, lots of Apex action. Started things off with EMEA this morning, and now 2 more maps to go for our North American region. I've got to welcome back Dia. Hope you enjoyed the break, and I know you were keeping eyes out specifically for that Barrow ending, and I just want to get your thoughts on that really quick before we jump into the final matches of the day.
2 thoughts. 1, almost Sheila, so close. Love the knockdown shield play. Second thought, we see another team win from the low ground. Just very weird, just very strange that SSG managed to pull it off in match number 3, winning up against FURIA in the low ground at Skyhook, and Oxygen managed to win against Oblivion in game number 4 from the low ground in Barometer. Rainday was talking about it a little bit. The hiccups of Apex Legends and Horizon's anti-hiccup boots, but this is still, I'd say, a pretty odd phenomenon, and one that Oblivion arguably shouldn't have let go. SSG is a little bit more, or a little bit less clear cut. It's surprising to see that height teams are struggling to close things out.
Kind of interesting, and every time I think about like high ground versus low ground, I just think of Anakin and Obi-Wan, and now if you just reversed all of that, the high ground doesn't always win, at least that we've seen here for Apex Legends. But what does are the southern zones on Stormpoint. But let's check in with Oxygen here as they get their feet on the ground for Barrow, start that looting process, and we'll see if they can kind of run it back to back.
Versatile energy weapon.
Should be able to at least have a really nice game. I mean, Oxygen's home is Barometer. They are one of the teams that, with their POI selection, basically had to, on Stormpoint, change nothing, which I think is super convenient, and I don't think that's a hot take either. Oxygen get this entire POI to themselves and didn't have to relearn or improvise any rotational paths. With a zone that's pulling close to them as well, I can't help but feel like this is a game that should favor them, but I cannot help but put respect on Liquid Alienware, who, playing out of Echo, uncontested, have also done historically very well in rings like this.
This is going to be very similar to another ring that we witnessed in the EMEA region earlier today, right? Look where Cloud9 has immediately started moving towards. Now, granted, they are operating off a survey beacon. They did not get a ring console, but Cybercats was the team that had taken this location and tried very hard to clear out their back from FA Kids. Now, remember what happens in the late game. FA Kids make that late negative rotation around, eliminate the majority of Cybercats, and then go on to win the game.
I'm noticing that Native have a very similar read on this, and they actually have a ring console. The fact that they rotate down towards the south, Native coming out of Jurassic, of course, with the evac tower, should be intercepting Cloud9 on this path, and at the very least, it looks like bargaining for height should be really nice for every team.
Well, as we take a look at this, we love our map views, but you can also watch Apex Legends your way at home with FACEIT Watch. It's the official multi-view streaming platform for the ALGS. All you have to do is go to faceit.com/watch, pick your favorite POVs. I know Diaz is that map view in particular, but see what you can track all the action from the comfort of your own home. And, you know, if you want to pull up some of the watch parties and the co-streams, have at it. Also, main broadcast loves you too.
Map POV is goated. Always map
true.
POV. Once you watch Apex with map POV, it changes the whole game for you. You can't go back. I can't go back.
You can never go back.
It is nice that, you know, to have that extra information to really get a holistic view of what's going on across the map. I mean, we've already talked about teams that were prioritizing moving up to heights. C9 was one of them. Native passed by. Tripods doing exactly the same thing. And if you're on FACEIT Watch and you've got the map up, you'll notice that Oxygen and FURIA, both approaching from the western side, could be doing that very same thing. FURIA, in fact, getting into the Trident on the big screen. And I'm really uncertain what their next move will be, because Trident from here does seem a little bit risky, especially if they're going to go through Jurassic. I'd much rather see them go south, but you know, they're playing. I'm not. So let me backseat drive for a second.
True, no backseat driving allowed. We'll check in with that later. Falcons, though, have elected to move in from the backside of Echo HQ, filtering up through the stairway, a scan to garner information, and then they'll reassess accordingly, getting back to full health here. Now, this is interesting, right? Because initially when you got a good look at the zone, people were setting up for it to end maybe in Pylon. Maybe a minute or so later, in a couple ring consoles, everyone has decided to move into Echo HQ. Cloud9 in particular, the front side of Echo HQ, Falcons in the back, and FURIA, who we had witnessed going north with that Trident, have doubled back around and are hitting player scan in Coastal.
Well, this is odd. I think it's certainly understandable, especially if you watched ALGS during last split. Split 1 was like all about Echo HQ, North America, EMEA, any region you like, anytime you like. We were going Echo HQ, and a lot of players, rightfully, likely took that to heart. The fact that we see a lot of teams piling into this POI is nice, and it'll also mean that squads that are a little bit later to the rotate will settle into more odd positions that are lower percentage, that, you know, are like, okay, well, maybe we don't go Echo HQ, maybe we go up to the hideout side of Pylon. So you'll see a team with a late rotation, no prio, actually play there. Then whether the zone pulls there or not is really fascinating, because it could end up in a situation where you've got way too many teams in Echo HQ that very much need to relocate.
Speaking of that, Naughty able to stick that res onto Sauce. We don't want to lose him just now, and get back into a building, throw the Pharaoh fluid on the door, and Chaotic and Beast to the hunt. Gives him some speed and some great vision there on what's to come. We've got a distance pinged on the map, but there's so many squads here for the time being. If you haven't already rotated into Echo HQ, you're gonna be late to the party. Now, granted, I don't know where it's going. This would be one of the craziest moments if it does decide to pull out of Echo.
I don't suspect that we'll be doing it, but we have to acknowledge that there is a chance. Flat will get a good idea of at least where everyone else is predicting, and it's possible they play up by the gravity cannon. They do have another squad moving right by them, so you have to be careful hitting this scan. In fact, they're not going to be able to, as E8 shoot them off the beacon. Could claim this for themselves, but you have to remember, especially when you have zone right behind you, Bangalore smoke does not hide you that well, so E8 will have to tank a bit of zone and get their angle perfect on the bang smoke in order to stay alive as they hit this survey beacon.
Very interesting to see Flat hitting the evac tower, making that rotate in. Some teams are still not anywhere nearby this. SSG waiting to play off that third ring console. And, well, we're getting tagged up here, but we don't lose anyone to a knock. And the recover is, well, piercing spikes to hold out any push. Now, granted, it's tough. I would prefer a Watson to play from here, but this is the best you can do on such a crazy jump. The fact that we're even alive from that evac says enough.
Playing a pretty low ground, low priority spot. It's not the worst thing in Echo HQ. With the amount of teams that sit in the same area, you are unlikely to be pushed until the very, very late game. It does, however, limit your options in terms of picking up KP, so you become very placement reliant when sitting in a spot like that, when you don't have a lot of angles into the teams surrounding Echo HQ. Taking a look at the map, this is interesting. It does look like we're pulling further into Echo HQ, so as much as we were wondering what would happen earlier, a lot of teams are getting rewarded off of this. There is one small strat that some teams will use, like Stallions, to play through Pylon and evac late into the other side of the ring. It can be done without oobing, like we've seen some teams, 07, do before.
Yeah, that was a tough one for sure. Elevate though, Luxford already down. Slayer and Zach are gonna have to turn this fight against Furia another way, but as soon as Zach looks to take angles, we get the crossfire from around. It's Falcons showing up, taking down Hal, going through Zach.
Game sense from Slayer, keeping him alive. He was the first one to swing the big door, ultimately backed off before Zach, and caused a bit of a mess for E8 as they weren't quite all on the same page, and running into a caustic, of course, does change a lot of people's game plans, especially when they're not used to having that as much in the meta. Tripods throwing a wrench into the plans for E8, and although E8 are not eliminated fully just yet, their chances of actually making an impact in this game are severely hampered.
Here we go. NRG still trying to hit this rotate out of Launchpad. Now they were hanging around here to hit that ring console. You can see that information on their mini map in your left-hand side of the screen. But with that delay, will cause them some issues on rotation, running straight on into Vanity. And how they're going to navigate this, considering 50% of the playable space in that next zone is a mountain.
Vanity have some nice cover. E8 do go down. Falcons pick up the kill, and it's Disguised. Face down yet another squad. It's them versus Most Hated. Let's jump into a listen-in with Disguised.
They're not in zone. They're not in zone. I'm pushing up with you.
I'm walking up.
Something.
They're running down deep. I don't have a little now.
They hit me on scan.
They're deep. They're going back.
Good.
In a really bad spot.
I'm trying to get ult back. He's gonna have blood advantage.
94 for Ningle.
Bang's on this rock. 70 on blood.
Blood's running back.
Bang's stuck on that rock.
55.
Yeah, just keep queuing her.
81 arc. Good arc.
I'm watching. I can't see her.
Keep queuing her. Keep nading her. She's fucked.
Running back.
I'm shooting her teammates off.
44.
I'm gonna go back. I'm going back.
I'm gonna walk in down. Oh,
fuck.
are we going back to hill?
My port went away. Yeah, we probably should. Or fuck it. Stabilize on our. Yeah, okay. I have one bat left. I have to sell.
I'm 2 bats.
I assume they just got the corner for free. I have 4. You know
What corner?
Like over here.
Yeah, they make it all the way across. No, they're running.
Quite interesting to hear some of those comms, and well, they're still looking for Most Hated. They get out of the ring for now. It's only a matter of time before they run right back into who they were trying to take that push onto.
Honestly, with the distance that Disguised have to go, maybe worth them committing to this fight. They've only got a minute to do it, but any damage that they deal now will likely stick. I'd like to see them start to make their way through Jurassic if they're going to do it. I'm not seeing Timmy with an evac tower, which does hamper their possibilities. Nice shots out of design. Oh my god, he gets that knock!
He does, and Laser not going to be able to do anything about that for Most Hated, likely going to lose that. And now we have to focus on that rotation. Mind you, 30 seconds before that ring starts to close, and they are full sending the res. Elsewhere, Oxygen Esports, your map for winners, running into a bit of an issue here, trying to clear out their back.
With Most Hated resing, this has gone from bad to worse. The whole squad may just go down. Oxygen fighting over a catwall right now. Vayne on 1 HP, doesn't dodge the bullet, and it's Furia that come out on top, taking down Oxygen.
and they need to get reset as quickly as possible. This would be different if Keon may have not been on the lifeline, because lifeline, remember, was their world's edge pick, but they do not have that here. We get the res up, and now start to heal. But job's not done. Teams are still going to be making their way out of Pylon. Teams like Most Hated, teams like Disguised, and even Yup. Maybe they'll have to hit a Hail Mary evac, but you said it yourself. Timmy didn't have one, so hopefully one of the other two did.
Got some nice shots. Trev Stacks taking down Phony. Oblivion may finish off SSG. Last shot does it, and yes, indeed, SSG will go down. Kill credit on the last one going to Blinkser. Oblivion now with 2 KP get to play for the height outside of this hill. Looking really good for Oblivion. Perhaps not a game-winning spot just yet, but they've got time.
Does that really set the door open for Liquid Alienware, still alive, still in second place, knowing that SSG has fallen, and Keon gets that peel off with the time being, but we still have to get to zone, and Native Gaming has fallen. The reset coming in, but for Disguise, they're still running into issues trying to stabilize.
And they're one of 3 teams that all played for this late rotate. Portal right back to the edge of zone may save them for a second. Designful still technically alive, but Yup and Most Hated fight over the kills and ultimately will take out Disguised, leaving them with just this 3v3. Only one team is going to come out of this side of Ring alive, Tim.
And for now, Zanile on that opening front gets tagged up, forced to take a shield back while Dupe and a Sivian hold off the cover fire, but it seems like we just cannot get good angles. Despite that Sentinel being amped up, it would only take a few bullets to make it work. Dupe just says, let me cut this in half and throw the Dark Veil, but an opposing one comes up to hit an X.
Like the swing through from Sivian. It is taking a while, though, to find targets with all these Dark Veils around. He's getting lost in the sauce, turns around and makes it himself. Sivian finding one burst with the Havoc, almost finds another, leaving it all in the hands of Laser to find the wipe onto Yup. There is time enough to rest. There is time enough to heal, but do they have the tools to make it out and over this hill?
They've got to have an evac tower if they want to focus on this, and with 6 seconds to go, I don't see one planted. We turn our attention towards the opposing side, the Echo HQ side, the collapse between Falcons, Cloud9, FURIA, Stallions. There's going to be a lot going on, and FURIA from the low ground have to deal off with Cloud9 just above them.
That's not all. Well, they've got a small corner of zone to play. A lot of people will be coming for Furia's spot. Most Hated could be doing the same themselves. But hey, if you're on FACEIT Watch, you'll know the evac tower doesn't look like it's going too hot. We may be dropping another team real soon as Furia wait for their time to collect KP. It looks like Flat may be forced into them.
Little 07 similar situation for Most Hated. Some of them even tried the wrap, and for Furia, the Bloodhound scan connects for 8 enemies. We take towards the high ground, and we just keep moving forward. Madness drops on down into the chaos below and lets the Havoc sing. Switches on over towards the Nemesis. Cloud9 fall, Falcons to join them into the top 7.
That was a sick drop down, and Furia's fight is not over yet. They've still got another one brewing. Liquid Alienware up against them. Down drums Jaguaris. It's not the last kill. He doesn't collect the KP. Liquid Alienware are down. Everybody's on top of Furia. In come the Stallions from the western side, and Weave from the east taking out Furia. Weave with just 2 members left. Still have to face down Stallions. Do they end up fighting for it?
For the teams that have rotated in early from the opposing side, man, they're just watching this entire collapse, just being like, I am so glad I don't have to deal with it, but Stallions able to withstand it all, and here comes Oblivion, but look at Fun. Still alive, staying out of the chaos.
I think he gets second here. Oblivion have been baited in, believing that there are 2 teams in this area. They still have not spotted the last member of NRG, and now they're a little bit too close to be able to back off effectively. Stallions should be able to continue this fight, and as long as Fun stays undetected, we should be seeing another couple points eked out by NRG yet.
Gonna be curious to see what Fun does when he decides to enter this fight. Here goes the Dark Veil. Retzi straight through it, gets deleted. Deloan and Alb here. A lot of trades going the way. Fun, when are you gonna make your entry?
It's coming. Fun is on the way. 2 members left of Oblivion. A 1v2 would be miraculous for NRG. I don't think you can pull off this res in time, but Reeds and Akimbo have got to have it in them. In comes the Catalyst wall from Fun.
And he throws the Dark Veil, piercing spikes through it. We're looking for Akimbo, looking for Reeds. They get the res. It's a 1v3 Fun. Not sure what you're going to do here, but it's a valiant effort. 6 KP for you and a nice second place in Oblivion. Find Fun, clean it up. Second place in map 4, and they convert to a win here on this Echo HQ hellish zone.
Really nice play from Oblivion to be able to do that. I mean, consistently making their way to the top couple of squads, especially, I mean, you called it hellish, absolutely. Being able to play out of Echo HQ in that situation and be one of the few remaining teams, some of it's going to come down to some like good play, and some of it is really going to come down to timing, and that is what ultimately saved Oblivion, got them kills, and got them a win on top of all of that.
And timing, right? We talk about that. You're like, hey, if Fun just stays back here, he's guaranteed a second. 100% does just that. So you take 9 placement points with, I think I saw 6 KP. So that's a 15-point game just for being patient. And who knows, he was probably in there just singing to himself or whatever Fun does.
You know what's wild? I think I might have posted about it. I definitely drafted a tweet about it. I know that you're thinking about singing. APAC North sings a lot. Like, they sing a lot in their... I didn't realize that, but if you guys at home are like, oh, I love the ALGS, but only, like, what if it was a musical? That's what could be improved. Just go watch APAC North. It's incredible.
Or you could just rerun the Conduit trailer where Revenant sings, because it was some of the most beautiful music to my ears also.
That was really good. That was really good. More content like that, hopefully, in our future.
More Revenant singing, that's all we need. But despite that, 5 matches done, some craziness that we've witnessed. And in the last 2 matches, SSG has fallen substantially early. They were north of 50 points coming into Stormpoint. And I was just saying, they just had to be consistent. All we needed was 1, maybe 2 decent games out of them for them to hold on to the top of the leaderboard. And now when we think about it, with just 1 more match to go, we need something epic out of them.
I mean, it looks like SSG were taking the draft strategy that I believe we talked about 2-3 games ago, where they, by picking Lightning Rod really early on, were looking to shore up their weaknesses, because it's very clear after the first couple of games that World's Edge is a big strength. Playing out of Lightning Rod, yes, SSG should be doing a lot better. The fact that they're not, I don't think comes as a massive surprise to them, given that they were the first team in North America to prioritize Stormpoint. I think they did that for a very good reason.
I think so too, and it could be said that we keep seeing all of these southern zones. So despite playing for some of those late game ring consoles, you're still arriving into some of these zones way too late. Thinking that barometer zone, how do you fight for a position when the majority of the teams in the lobby have already set themselves up there? And then even more so, that Echo HQ ending that we just witnessed was one of the most chaotic things I have seen in a very long time. Let's see how it panned out for our squads. We knew Oblivion won, and they're gonna walk away with 21 points. And I misspoke. I thought I saw a 6 on NRG's screen. I'm crazy. No eliminations, but at least they get 9 points.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best that you can hope for when you are playing things out as a solo, when you don't have any hope of picking up kills. A second place finish, fantastic. I mean, you know, maybe you 1v3 Oblivion for the win, but that's a little far-fetched. Now, Stallions coming up right behind that, also turning their day around. Stallions' World's Edge, in contrast to SSG, was atrocious. Their Stormpoint looking pretty good.
I had to pop my glasses on because clearly I was blind, but now I can see. Oh my god, FURIA, 11 eliminations, 14 Liquid Alienware, who had made it into Echo HQ, obviously, because some of their journey landing there, calling it out. That was their first pick of the draft. Falcons with 8 as well. Jumping on over to the back half here. The majority of the eliminations were in the top 10, but still, yup, SSG and Tripods, the only teams to walk away with a few here.
picking up, yeah, just the slivers that were left behind. There are, of course, teams that did get a little bit more unlucky than others in the course of this game, and this is that sort of zone that you were talking about where it is really impossible almost to master. FURIA commit for the kills, thinking that it's the right decision, and I find it really difficult to fault them for that, Tiff. The amount of squads that then showed up to this fight really changes everything for them, and it's a matter of, well, do you commit for the kills and then maybe get at least a few KP, or do you not commit for the kills, wait for Stallions, and then let those points pass you by? I think FURIA made the right decision. I think a lot of the teams that committed to that fight, including Team Liquid, made the right decision, but it was Oblivion that ultimately, playing from the opposite side of the hill behind NRG from the north, that end up taking the win with 9 kills to boot. That'll push them further up in the standings, of course, and it is these overall standings that I'm really curious about.
Ooh, I know, same. I feel like we have to set the storylines for what's to come in map number 6, and here it is, SSG, 52 points. They've withstood 2 lackluster games on Stormpoint, but they cannot afford another. Oblivion, all for their second and first place on Stormpoint, hit 46 points, and Liquid Alienware and FURIA kind of rounding out some of those moments there, 42 and 41 respectively. Team Falcons, 25 eliminations and 11 placement points will give them 36, albeit a really interesting day for them, but to sit in top 5 going into the final game, it's not bad.
No, not at all. In fact, they could arguably still take this. SSG's not been putting up a lot of points. Falcons have not yet managed to find a game win, and when and if they do, those tend to be pretty big ones. So Falcons fans at home can hold on, but it's looking like SSG are in control. They've still got to pull this back, and not just to a fantastic game on Stormpoint, because they don't need that, but they need an average game on Stormpoint in order to stay ahead. Can SSG muster that with the fact that they've picked up Lightning Rod, knowing full well that this is their weakness? Can they overcome it this early into the split?
Can't we just get a lightning rod zone at this point in time? Because that would just make everything be that much more easier for them. But we'll have to see after this break what's to come of SSG. Oh, I was still dancing. That was crazy. I thought they were gonna count me in. They didn't. It's fine, guys. Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series. I'm Tiffany. That's Dia. And well, we asked before the break if SSG could hold on for the final map of Stormpoint. And well, I guess it's about to be time to see.
Yes, it is. As we prepare for this last match, I mean, there is a lot on the table. We've seen teams get a little bit messy when we approached the last games of any series, but especially on Stormpoint. I will say today's games haven't been particularly clean on Stormpoint from anyone, however. There's been a lot of a lot of fighting in the mid game, and many of our teams are still getting caught out on rotation despite the scrims that I know happened in order to push these teams to, well, ultimately where they are today. Everybody's preparing for Pro League somehow. Oblivion walked away with the win. If SSG do manage to not just have an average game, but an exceptional one, picking up that third match, they would have won half of our games today. A really impressive feat.
I mean, it's pretty solid, right? Let's go ahead and jump into match number 6 and see if they can get on through. I was looking at the team stats kind of after 4 games in general. They were dealing almost 13,000 damage. Their damage differential, 7,100. That is crazy for the first 4 maps alone.
That is crazy. I mean, they've been playing really incredibly. SSG's average placement has just leapt all the way up. During scrims, I believe Oversight ended up patching us some stats. During scrims, the average placement for a team coming out of Lightning Rod was 10th. For SSG, it was 8th. And today alone, they've really upped the average placement, moving themselves up with 2, of course, the first place. However, they are placing a little bit lower than average when it comes to Lightning Rod teams.
Interesting. And you start to think about it, right? NRG got Zeus Station. That's where they're landing. We go ahead and pop that ring console to see where our zone is going to be headed. And it looks like it's potentially not pulling to the deep south that we're used to, but maybe a bit of a more mid-map.
Yeah, I mean, this looks really interesting. Let's actually talk a little bit about the rotations that happen when we go over to Ceto, because Tempr, of course, have priority. That much is clear. However, when it comes to teams like E8 and FURIA, controlling this ridge line is actually super valuable because of how often this will end up turning into like a zone that pulls over here, or of course, the ability for you to transition around this side of the map. Now, Tempr have the option to set up dead center in Ceto. A lot of teams will choose to do that. And where Native are sat right now is another very powerful position, allowing you to output pressure over towards the Jurassic side of the zone, as well as towards all of this area in Ceto Station.
Interesting. I love that you're kind of calling that out for Native Gaming, because you think about it, Arcan, we already talked about it in that roster mania, coming out of retirement, but one of the most zone-oriented IGLs that could come through here. And starting in Jurassic, it's interesting to see them kind of pull on north towards Cascade. They've got to find extra info.
Yeah, like Tempr are now taking this power position, and Native have pushed themselves into a spot where it's likely that they've got to now play for either control of Cascade and then third party, either this side or this side. So I guess despite having this priority rotation, without information, that's ultimately worthless to them.
It really is. And SSG, they're actually going through Zeus as well. And NRG, who lands Zeus, you can see they've already made their way towards that mid-map next zone information by your arrow.
Yeah, this is honestly looking like it's going to be a very complex game for a lot of teams, many of them piling straight into Ceto. Nobody controlling things like high ground, and that'll open things up for late rotating teams to get much better positions. Native in their fight with CCE, perhaps the opportunity to pick up some much-needed KP, have already taken out Cobra. Do slide on into the Sheila, and Rambo's got no problems with that, especially this early into the game. When you were on blue shields and do not have the additional purple perk with Rampart, you move so slowly when carrying Sheila.
That was one of the biggest surprises when I started playing Sheila or Rampart in general, when we had all of those legend challenges back on the prior season. Like, I had to lock them in, right? And that was the biggest thing that I noticed. If you don't have that perk, you are in the thick of it. But at least one member of CCE was able to get out of that engagement, albeit they do play Loba, so we have a support character. We could go craft.
I mean, you've got the opportunity to get out of Cascade, so it is entirely possible that CCE are able to craft. It'll require them going to the north. I know Command Center has a crafter, Wall has a crafter, Northpad does not, and really you're going to be picking between those two POIs. Command Center's a bit rough to walk through. But I digress. The chance to craft is there. For a team like Disguised, who have also rotated up to Cascade, it seems to be the real central place for a lot of teams to go. No Kidnap is going to come through from Designful, but he does take a nice off angle with the opportunity to retreat. Does 200 damage and then comes right back to deal a little bit more. The man just doesn't quit.
Job's not done. Back to the high ground we go. Love the portal to allow the maneuverings throughout Cascade here and Design here, looking for some angles onto Native, the Arcstar. Hopefully that could be the opening that he wants it to, but we're still going through here. Well timed into the void to avoid the Rolling Thunder.
Yeah, that was some serious like Wraith cooldown knowledge. Drops down just in time to get the cooldown back, and ultimately, with all the pressure that they've expended as Disguised, push Native Gaming back out into the open. We talked about how Native had two options. They could control the hideout of Cascade or be pushed into the low ground and fight there for a third party. There's no third party. Native have moved there on their own, and if there's no pre-existing third party, Tiff, it means that Native are at risk of coming into a fight and then being sent on themselves.
That's going to be really tough. We'll have to see how they decide to hold that area by tunnel north of Cedo. But the majority of our squads have actually waltzed right into Cedo. Elevate still looking for extra information over by Mill. Oxygen here. Kind of on that southern side. And I think this is a strong place to hold, especially when you need to see where those teams from the southern side of Stormpoint are going to hit that rotate in. Plus, you've got to do spot. Wait, isn't Frex's the one that's got the, I don't know what the phobia is called, but you can't do spiders?
Oh, arachnophobia. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Honestly tough. But, you know, with good teammates, you can overcome anything in Apex Legends. Even
very true.
irrational fear of spiders.
It's crazy. Maybe I should change my name, Dia. Maybe I should.
Oh yeah. I mean, some people get like tough about it, but I think that most of the time the word spider is okay. If you started dressing up as a spider, though, then I think we would have problems.
No, what do you mean? Yeah, I just want to dress up. No.
You don't know Tiff's Itsy Bitsy Spider cosplay?
Stop! No, dude. I do have a Spider-Gwen cosplay, but I digress. More to come here. We're gonna not.
Something.
We will. Yeah, I used to cosplay back in the day, but anyways, we've got the Mill, we've got Luxford over there still, Slayer and Zach kind of on the houses outside, and Most Hated, we're gonna be just in front of them. A good look at where that zone is pulling towards, and we were talking about on the Telestrator portion early on that some of these zones can pull out towards where Yup is playing from, and more specifically, where Liquid Alienware is holding over in Millage. But where we briefly saw that next zone going to is actually deeper into Cedo itself.
Yes, and for that very reason, teams like Most Hated and Liquid actually have the benefit of a higher ground position to evac tower from, and for Liquid, they've got priority in a southern rotate. Now, the nature of a zone that comes from this, or that is more southern oriented, is that not a lot of teams will be here. So if Liquid actually choose to stay on this low ground, they can then move into Oxygen space and take a fight against them, which is basically an Edge team's dream, because nobody else is going to come down there.
Very interesting. I mean, Cloud9 waiting on that survey beacon scan, and they're going to get just an influx of information. It's going to be like, Cedo, we knew, but hopefully it'll find them some angle that they can approach from. Speaking of that, SSG have moved into that same rotate that we were talking about with Native Gaming. Now, still all 20 squads up, and if we're going to move 20 squads deep into Cedo, this is going to be yet again another interesting endgame for Stormpoint.
We got to remember as well, Disguised fought for control of Cascade. What did that get them? That got them a ring console. That means that Zone 3 scan belongs to Disguised, who are approaching from the north. One of very few teams to be doing that. The teams that are moving behind Disguised and into Cascade include Cloud9 and CCE, who both have the opportunity to hit the console themselves. But with relatively few squads having access to this information, Disguised, C9, CCE all have a pretty notable advantage.
They do, and also another advantage that CCE has is they've got the whole crew back together. They went to the north, they crafted, they hit the respawn, and now will be joining us in that full force.
Extra Valkite as well, I'm sure, so This may not be the command center rotate that they wanted to take them into the zone, but still possible, especially from this position. Unfortunately, getting tagged by the scan. That isn't in Cascade, so they've still got a ways to go on their journey into ring, but it is going to hurt to have been revealed by what I believe was Weave over by the zip lines in the western side.
You know, they've got the Valk, which is the Skirmisher Legends. They were scanning those care packs to hopefully get them onto purple. You can see right here, 32 Evo away, electing to go that route with the evac tower. Of course, going from north to south, you've got an evac tower right below them also, but we're gonna keep on moving because everyone is deciding to rotate in. Now with this many squads alive, with round 2 closing, it's only a matter of time before this lobby cuts in half. We're gonna take the underside of that Cascade area, that high ground that you were talking, Disguised fought so valiantly for.
The setup from CCE is fantastic as well, because nobody is realistically dropping down into them from that angle. You'd have to be a little too confident, I'll say, as Disguised to try and take this fight. Do hear quick Bloodhound ult pop. See, we could be getting risky, but I like the way that CCE are navigating their composition, making this almost impossible to push. Now, Trev's got to be careful, and I know Trev knows this, but if you do shoot through 2 Rampart amped covers, the amped cover further ahead of you will go down as the bullet's already been amped. You don't want to expend basically free HP that your walls have that way. That's why you see him sitting on the wall with Sheila, so he's not shooting through the first amp.
I forgot, Dia, the little Rampart enjoyer coming in with the facts. Any Rampart mains out there, you're welcome. Dia's got the knowledge. Elevate here on the screen, looking for control over this tunnel. Now, mind you, they have to go through this. They do have an evac tower, but we've seen just how not beneficial they've been kind of going over these mountains.
And when coming out of checkpoint, I mean, it's basically impossible. I don't think I've seen anyone pull off a rotate with an evac out of checkpoint. It's a notoriously difficult POI to get out of, and it surprises me that E8 have stuck around here for as long as they did. I know that they got the ring console information out of here, but even at LAN, when E8 were originally scrimming out of checkpoint, they were talking about how difficult of a POI it is to rotate out of here. This time, they've just opted into it.
It's going to be really tough, and we'll have to keep tabs on it, but at least Slayer is out here on the back looking for anyone that could potentially be rotating in. We get that pip of the map, and they're not alone. Most Hated have decided to wrap around and rotate through checkpoint to make things more difficult. And Zach opens up with a lot of damage there, pushes inside the tunnel and just tries to keep on throwing down the damage. Here comes the swing from an opposing angle, but does not have any shield left.
I swear that Bloodhound walked straight through him. Shield swaps coming instantly for E8, but SSG are all over them. Native go down in the meantime. Phony has fallen. Motherload inside to seal the deal on Elevate. And SSG head out, knowing that there's a third party coming in behind them. They've got nothing to do with that. It is fire and flames, turn and burn for SSG.
But we lose out on Frexes. Now, mind you, this is the first place squad sitting at around 50 points or so. They need a good game here to hold on to it, right? Oblivion in second with 46 points, just a mere 8 points outside of them. And NRG on that south side of where the zone is pulling to, sitting on blue.
NRG's spot, honestly, not fantastic, but not devastating just yet. Catalyst Wall can change a lot of things. For Tripods, having a Kraber in the hands of Onmu, however, could do them a lot of favors. This is exactly the path, the one that Onmu is aiming down, that they want to take to get into zone. You don't want to have to dip into Cedo, where a lot of teams will be trying to get out of. Instead, you want to play for the supply bins on the low ground.
Ooh, Onmu has to play it safe there. Able to get out of dodge. Is that double time passive that comes through. Just sometimes it throws you into oncoming cover and sometimes it throws you into the enemies. But for now, they're going to have one of the longest rotations into that next zone. We got a brief look at it. Welcome back, Zenile, and goodbye. Zenile landed in the open arms of a Kraber. That's unfortunate.
Not every day it happens, but when it does, you remember. At this point, there's not a whole lot that tripods need to do outside of move forward. The biggest problem is that right ahead of them in that nut building, they've got another team staring them down, and that team is Team Falcons, who have yet to win a game today. We're still inside the top 5, who still could take this day with the right amount of points.
The fact that that didn't connect is crazy, but that one doing it, 140 damage. However,
and no knock, by the way?
Yeah, you know, it do be like that. It do be like that.
Bit rough, as the tripods have now expended another 2 Kraber shots to do that. They're no closer to actually getting a spot in this zone. Falcons looking straight at them. Everyone else going to be forced to try and make their way creatively out of Cito. FURIA expend a wall to get just a little bit closer to the center. Will not have that very same cooldown for the next fight and need to take one now. Madness is low, Vaxlon the same. Keon is the one who holds their fates in his hand as a respawn goes off behind them. Cito Station is chaos still.
Yeah, honestly, there's not much that FURIA can do. We've eliminated FURIA, about to join them. You've got Tempr, you've got Oblivion, and even NRG in this small area of Cito. And there it goes. Reptar from above joins alongside them. But for this rotation right here, Cloud9 making their way towards the underside, just outside of the tunnel, and SSG, Zainu last standing. They've only picked up 2 eliminations, but is it enough to hold on to the top of the leaderboard with Oblivion rotating in from Cito?
It's got to be really tough, especially being shot at from the height. That's Disguise trying to pick up a few kills, denying a res onto Koi. Zainu almost goes down. The knuckle clusters have done him so many favors, but I don't know if he'll survive. In the meantime, we'll tune in with Vanity, see if they can survive. Stallions, Liquid, NRG, all down.
Oblivion down as well, so we'll have to see what happens. For now, that's going to be SSG's saving grace. Flat on your screen, Zainu looking for angles here, and the push comes in. He's able to take down Most Hated, and a perfectly timed shield swap.
I cannot believe that he is alive. Anyone else dies there, and he goes for the res. This man knows no chill. Zainu gets Koi back in the game, but getting sniped out by DSG. They are not going to let this happen for free. Even if DSG do not have the ordinances to stop it, they will at no point cease focus on SSG, a team that they know can be eliminated for now 2 KP.
They've got knuckle clusters, though, that they could try to send on over there to wreak havoc on that res. But for now, Jen Burton on your screen, Falcons on Grav Cannon have a really solid hold on where this zone is pulling to. For the rest of the squads that have found themselves outside the next ring, time is of the essence, and there goes a play. Design enemy on the low ground. What's CCE going to be able to do about this?
Jimmy has height on CCE, giving them a couple angles to approach this from. Enemy with the knuckle cluster takes out 2, takes out 3, again lighting up the kill feed with this pick. It's really become an enemy favorite and likely a DSG pick that's here to stay. SSG as a duo are still beside them with both Koi and Zainu up and on reds. Can they keep DSG at bay?
Oh, but they get the opening knock on to Design Full, and with the cross coming in from Cito, can we get the heal up? I'm not sure if that's going to work, and SSG has fallen.
That's a top 5. It's
SSG.
still good for SSG. Team Falcons start moving up on the water. Now it's their turn to siege Disguised.
Falcons, they make their presence known. 46 points, looking for potentially their first victory of the day. Hal with the jump on over that rock, scan to boot, 5 hostiles connected into the top 4, and well, this could be a really big game for them, but that Arc Star forcing them to maneuver across the other side.
Missing a few kills right now as Flat and Vanity are the ones picking those up. Now Flat lose 1 as well. Falcons can still pick up quite a bit of KP towards the south side of zone. A wild cross from Flat moving over to the rock exposes Nano, who then goes down, or very nearly. Falcons have full control of the entire northern side of this zone. They should be walking away with this win.
Down into the final 3, a 3v3v3. Plenty of eliminations left withstanding here for Falcons to grasp at. But I love that Jen Burton's already working on chaining ult excels together. We're at 73%, waiting on that Dark Veil for endgame. Not sure if we'll actually be able to get it, but 0 there with some well-timed thermites and placed over there to really work on Flat.
but it doesn't stop the res on Nano. Flat now as a 3-person team have Bangalore smokes available again. Vanity waiting to clear out. The Falcons are going to play with the control of their door, getting sent on by Flat. It's the time for Falcons to start moving up. Even this Bangalore ult cannot be affording to dissuade them. Crook is going to pick up at least one knock. Falcons still waiting on the other side. In come those real punishing cooldowns from the Falcons as Zero waits on the other side of this wall. Flat go down the last 2 squads. Falcons large and in charge in this zone as we wait for the Catalyst wall to go down. Hal's got an angle onto height. This wall cannot afford to go unpunished. Waiting on the reload. You do not want to miss a second. This singular rock houses all of Vanity. Falcons have 2 and an off angle. Everyone swings onto Hal. Crook goes down first, and Hal again controls the rock, taking a wide swing and taking Falcons to a map 6 win.
Better late than never. A massive game out of Team Falcons to assert their domination on North America. What an impressive game. Now, mind you, they waltzed on in, held Grav Cannon on that eastern side of the zone. They withstood all of the collapse from Spacestation itself, and it was quite impressive done.
Now, when it comes to whether or not they got first, when it comes to whether or not Zero is personally disappointed in their performance, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get.
True.
The kills may add up, they may not. It's going to be really close, mostly because Falcons didn't get that much KP moving into the final zone, but they picked up a lot of it with those last couple of squads. So the numbers are going to be really tight. SSG may still retain a lead. In fact, someone else may have surfaced from underneath them as well, with a lot of the top squads actually being pretty close together as we came out of game number 5.
That's true. Honestly, that clutch, when you think back to that prior close, Zainu, that clutch from him, like that could have been enough to hold on, because we were curious, would they be able to do enough in this map number 6 to hold on to first place? I guess we're all just kind of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game, right? We play it, we calculate it, then we get to figure out who won the match day. What is important to note is that with SSG not managing to clinch the final win, with as impressive a performance as they did have, they're not going to be asserting their dominance by any wild margin. Even if they still managed to win the day, this was a really close day between all of the squads, and especially those that were near the top, that were playing perhaps a little faster octane. SSG, Oblivion, Liquid Alienware making it into the top 3 after game 5. We'll see what happens, of course, with the overalls, but those 3 really have nothing to worry about when it comes to their standings today.
Well, as we start to wrap things up for our day here in North America, we've got to bring Rain Day back on into the mix, lying in wait, and I always got to hear your thoughts on what we just witnessed.
Yeah, it was a huge game from Falcons, and just when we thought, the story wouldn't be about them, they make it so close, and they leave everybody waiting with bated breath as to will they have done enough to beat SSG, who are sitting in first, waiting, watching to see if they did enough to hold on. Overall, though, what to me has been the difference with Falcons, and it's the difference between Dark Zero and TSM prior to that with both these iterations of these teams, is not only are they relatively consistent, their bad games are 3, 4, 5, 6 points. They're not 0 points very often. What they can do is pop off with kills, and they always look for KP. And oftentimes you look at, well, how are they even in this position, right? Well, you go back to game 5, an 8th place. That's not too many points. But when you add on 8 kills to it, that's 10 points. That's actually doing just as well or better than most of the other teams in the lobby. Essentially, they took 4th overall in that lobby just with an 8th place. So that's the threat that Falcons is going to bring. And until teams start playing the style, they're always going to be very capable of coming back with that big game and staying in the mix to have it. So Falcons, obviously, making things interesting for us. Tiff, yeah, obviously, it's going to be a real fine line as to whether they won as we take a look at our match results. 22 points to close out the day. The first win for Falcons on the day as well. Meanwhile, the Vanity Flat continue to perform. Disguise have a little bit of a bounce back there. And SSG, we talked about those decent games that you don't win. Well, 7 points. Question is that enough?
Is it? I think they were around the mid pack on the 30 before this game, Dia.
That is correct. I can do the math, but I am not going to because I don't want to spoil it for myself. So I instead want to take a look a little further down the leaderboard because while teams like SSG, CCE, Most Hated filled this out, a lot of them actually coming up with 7 points. Adding to that the kills, Liquid Alienware really stands out as a team that got away with not a whole lot of placements, but lots of kills on their way to this zone, have really pulled out a nice day. C9 didn't quite make the cut in this last game, but Tempr with an interesting, I'm going to call this a pop-off game, especially when compared to the way that Tempr was playing towards the end of last split, and now at the beginning of this one, getting a 5-point game is actually pretty nice.
Well, we've been waiting for the moment. Did Falcons do enough or did SSG hold on? Here's your series results for match day 2. 59 points is the winning total. Team Falcons with a massive game do not do enough to take first place yet again, but they will be second and coming out on top in day 1 and second in day 2. It's almost a perfect score, so they will be happy with that. Oblivion, Liquid Alienware, and Vanity there, but Tiff, your reaction to SSG taking match day 1?
I mean, they did just enough, right? Zainu, I was like, in this clutch, is that going to make the difference for the overall to win the match day? And it does. And honestly, like I said earlier, I know Zero was talking about how anything less than first is a disappointment. I don't think this is a disappointment at all. If I'm Zero in squad, I am happy with that end game to salvage as many points on the overall day as possible. And it just goes to show you that you can lock it in. Well, I mean, look, we moved from 5th to 2nd and almost 1st. That's pretty wild in one game.
It's obviously, Dia, big day for SSG, who with a new roster continue to perform very, very well. But in game 4, it actually shifted. This was the game I think teams started to catch up. SSG had 0 points in here. It would actually be Oxygen Esports who would take the W in this contested circle near Barometer.
I mean, this was a very close game, and it was funny. I brought this up when you were off the desk, Rain Day, but the fact that we had another low ground team that ended up winning things. I did love watching Sheila for CCE, who still were struggling to really put things together. They're struggling to make it out of the mid game and into the end game. This is good performance from them, but to see Oxygen with all these shield swaps on the floor actually make really good use of the visual occlusion they're able to provide with Bangalore smokes, force Oblivion to come down into them and essentially just throw all of Oblivion into the meat grinder, looks pretty darn cool. I gotta say though, Tip, I enjoyed going over match 5 with you because this one was a little sneaky.
This one was very interesting, right? We had that ultimate collapse of Echo and Stallions here. They picked up some well-needed KP, but when it came down to this final fight against Oblivion and Alb trying to withstand on all fronts, not able to do it. Now, when you say sneaky, there is one more player left in this lobby who throws that Dark Veil down right here and makes their presence known. Now, I was curious if he would be able to hit a 1v3 because Fun is absolutely cracked and does crazy things, but albeit that's a tall order to ask. But the 3 of Oblivion just full swing Fun and clean house right there. But job's not done. We still had one more epic endgame that we all just got to witness.
It was obviously very exciting to see this one, and this would be the one that would decide second place. And Oblivion really woke up game 4, game 5, second place, and then obviously at first place there. But they really would be overtaken. Vanity would unfortunately have to lose a little bit of that as the storyline would shift towards Team Falcons yet again. And 52 points. Well, what's 3 points for going from second to first and 3 points of KP? It's 6, and it means they're just one shy away from the 59 SSG did. Whether it was Zainu with the miracle play or whether it was just little things over the day that led up to a big result, Falcons with this 3v3 would take second place, and it would leave SSG with the win on match day 2. Either way, great sign for North America that there are tons of teams who are threats. And at the top, well, it is super clear. You could see it. SSG, 3rd place yesterday, 1st place today. Falcons, 1st place yesterday, 2nd place today. A clear top, Tiff, in North America.
Yeah, that's really impressive and consistent overall from those 2 squads. But even NRG, a top 5 finish yesterday, and then you come on down here today and finish just outside the top 5. But it's all right, though, because you still find yourself in the top 3 after 2 match days played. But we're just getting, yeah, actually, now when you think about it, I'm not going to do the math because caster math never works on air. But if you're finding yourself in the 40s after 2 match days, you're chilling.
Yeah, and after 2 match days in positions like this, you do start to worry if you're up or if you are most hated. Again, we've got 3 rounds of 3-round robins, so it's not like it's over by any stretch of the imagination, but it does mean things need to change, especially if you've already played your second game. Now, on this side, too, Elevate, maybe the most notable, 2 points, 2 match days played. You gotta feel for Zach and all that he's gone through to get to this point with these teams. The roster mania, it probably hasn't worked out in their favor yet. But there's plenty of other teams in this situation that we would have maybe expected stronger starts, notably DSG, who had their debut today. Not excited about a 2 points finish for them, DF.
Perfectly understandable, and this is going to happen to teams. I think it's a matter of whether you can, pick things back up. Of course, we talked about that with 07 this morning, but I think that especially when we're looking at teams like E8, how well you can identify what's going wrong, because this is a new squad and it's a squad that has a lot of potential. But when Zach is IGLing these 2 new players with him, he's IGLing a very different team than he was before, and being able to figure out where they're going wrong, what they need to do, is going to be the difference between it's not keeping vibes up nearly as much. It's really actually identifying what's the signs of what's going wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at roster mania, and usually there's some winners. Sometimes there's some losers. It's too early to tell, and obviously we want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt to have plenty of weeks to show what they've got. But as of now, we've got a few teams that have stood out a rest from the pack, and today specifically, we had a few players stand out. We talked a lot about this team, but I have to give a shout out to the young gunner himself. He spent his time at LAN after not being a part of XSET, who did not qualify. He stepped in for Legends Gaming, and now he stepped in big time for SSG, filling shoes alongside Zainu and Phony that were big to fill. A historied organization across all esports, but especially been present in the ALGS for a long time. Koifel has stepped up, and not only was the entire damage deal leader in the lobby, he just was maybe that piece that for SSG fit the synergy of how they want to play under the IGLing of Phony, and with the assistance of Zainu's incredible skill, the best. And if that is the case, as it's shown in these first 2 days, what does that mean for the future of this org, which has constantly been a threat when it comes to LANs and when it comes to Pro League? Can this be that thing that pushes them over the tide? The benefits of Koifel and Zainu to me are their abilities to learn. They're adaptive, they're hungry, they're young, and they're ready to get after it. And so SSG's MVP, Koifel, it seems like it's no surprise here, and certainly shouldn't shock any of the fans watching at home. He is icy with it, that is for sure. 9 kills, 8 assists, and 6,000 damage dealt. Great day for Koifel in terms of SSG's performance, and it's locked them down a win, guys. And so you've got to say everyone on that team proved to do the right things at the right time, and luckily we have a chance to talk to them and get their thoughts as well. We've got Phony sitting by ready for the interview, as he has won match day number 2 and taken 3rd place in match day number 1. Phony, congratulations, man. This is a great start to the split for you guys, and a well-earned victory today.
Thank you, man. It was an amazing day to play with these boys.
So I got to know, I've been seeing the adjustments of this roster, and there's a lot of things I'm sure behind the scenes as to what happened, why it happened, how Koifel's been fitting in with the squad. I don't want to, say any more about it. What has gone on your end, and how are you feeling about this new team, and what's working for you guys here at the start of this split?
I'm feeling amazing about this team, man. Like, I love fucking playing with Koi. I love playing with Zainu. Zainu's always giving me like the best comms possible, and like he's just an amazing player, and I respect them both highly. And Koi's coming into this, and he wants to be like a part of a squad that he can like talk to and be with like for a long while, not just be traded around. So I'm glad to have Koi to the team, having as like a really good addition, and we just all work so well together, and we just all love to joke around as well.
So vibes are high. Obviously, the fragging potential is there. And once again, congratulations. It was quite impressive, but there was a real stark difference between World's Edge and Stormpoint in terms of your performance, right? Now, not all of that was your fault there. You got gate kept in one of those Stormpoint moments over there in Pylon, but we can laugh about that one. That was interesting, right? But I want to look at the POI draft. You guys had 5th pick right off the rip. You snag Lightning Rod first, and that was some crazy rotations out of there, considering the majority of those zones went to the south, which is very typical of Stormpoint, right? So talk to me about how you kind of navigate your squad through some of those end games and trying to get there.
Yes, it was definitely a bad pick. We definitely didn't like it as much as we thought we would. Of course, scrims are very different from LGS, and we have to rotate on that side of the map where we'll get ratted by Falcons, or we'll end up having to get thirded by like a bunch of teams for those south zones that we never, got to try and scrim. So definitely not the best pick. But in order to navigate it, I just stick to the fragging potential that I have for my team, and knowing if we just take one fight and just clear that fight, then we'll have like a good side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, you say scrims are very different, and I have to agree. I mean, I've watched a lot of scrims; they are very different. However, you're performing very well in scrims at the same time, and you've spent a lot of time IGLing in a lot of different scenarios. How do you keep both yourself and your players successful in the transition between those two things? How do you learn from scrims and then take that into match day?
Well, what we do in scrims is like we just try to like limit test, because this is our first time playing with Koi. So me and Zainu spoke about it, and we just want to like see what he can do. So like if he does like a crazy play, then we'll let him do it to see if he can do it and see if it works. It's good to see him limit test, because he wants to be able to like fight everything, and giving them the ability to be able to fight everything and like everything that he should fight really just elevates our game, especially in LGS, because he gets like the biggest confidence possible whenever ALGS comes. And Zainu loves when ALGS comes, because he knows that everyone is, mostly nervous especially on the first game or the first day.
Well, it's been really exciting to watch you guys. I want to close it out with any final thoughts you have, whether you're fans, SSG, the org, anybody who's been watching. Any last words from you, Phony, after the win today?
Just thank you to God. Thank you, for giving us this opportunity to win. And I'll just let, my actions, us playing speak for itself. I don't really want to say anything else. Thank you.
I got to respect it, man. All right. Congratulations on match day 2, taking the dub. Phony and SSG with the win there. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, man. You have a great day.
All right. I like that as well. I got to say, Tiff, a little bit more my style. Let actions speak more than words. A little bit of a difference between yesterday's interview and today's. No shade to either style, but certain people have different ways of hyping themselves up. And, I respect the side that Phony's decided to lean on.
It's very mature and honestly just level-headed about it, and some things to be said about his answers, right? I know Dia was really excited about this one. The limit testing that occurs in scrims that you can take, but I was excited about that answer, but then when he said it, even more details, seeing what Zainu can come up with, I liked that.
It's a great team and really a lot of synergy. I feel like the fact that Koifel mentioned he was able to build and grow with the team and not have to switch up. We've seen it work with ANC Outplayed in their win in EMEA today, one of the longest standing trios in all of EMEA and ALGS. Well, SSG seemed like they've got that headed in their future as well. Dia, final wrap thoughts of today's North American action as we look to close it out.
I am so glad you led with ANC Outplayed, because my final point actually has to do with a story that we did touch on a few times, but didn't really get to make the center because it was so much about SSG and their free fall and Falcons coming back up. Oblivion managed to get away with 3rd place today, and Oblivion mirror ANC Outplayed in a really important way. Don't let this get away from you. The fact that a team that came out of Challenger Circuit and the Pro League qualifier walked away with 3rd. Oblivion are not a team to be underestimated. And for those of you who are at home who are going, oh my God, ALGS is so far away. Less than a year ago, Oblivion came out of the Challenger Circuit. Take this opportunity. Go sign up. Go find a way to play some competitive Apex Legends, because it's the best.
Always repping the Challenger Circuit. You got to love it. And so many great stories have come from the Challenger Circuit as well. Great stories told today and casted by the both of you. Thanks for being a part of the desk broadcast as always, guys, and enjoy. Until next, we're able to see you in the ALGS. Hopefully it's soon. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up Dia and Tiff for the day. Fantastic work across everyone here to bring you this. And what's next on the table? Well, we'll have new talent here ready to guide you through match day number 3, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time next week. And it'll be the same quality action to see who can continue to dominate and thrive in EMEA, and really in EMEA, a region that has had so much parity. I've used that word again, but it feels so equal across the board that anybody can win. What region will stand out? What teams will continue to show up in the ALGS? Well, we absolutely cannot wait to find out. We hope you are there alongside with us. If you missed a little bit of the action today, make sure to check us out on YouTube at Play Apex Esports or on Twitch at twitch.tv/PlayApex. Our VODs are usually up and ready to go. And if you need a reminder midweek on when the match day is and what time it starts in your region, make sure to follow us on X at Play Apex Esports as well. You've got a week. So now it's time to chill out and play a little bit of Apex. But in the meanwhile, if you want some more action on your calendar, June 8th, the Challenger Circuit #1 will be going on. And registration will close June 5th, which I believe should be like Thursday of this week. No, it's Wednesday. So Wednesday of this week, that will close in the US Pacific time. So make sure to get your registration in now. You never know, you could be the next Oblivion. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great day to all of our crew, EA, everyone responsible, our players, our commentators, our casters, our talent, though they're on the show or whether they're not on the show, watching in Discord and helping us out. We appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for being a part of the ALGS. Go play some Apex, download the game, and enjoy yourselves. We'll be back next weekend, and as always, remember to never give up, never stop gaming, and we'll see you all next time.
Team on fire, dominating down to the wire. I said we on